Alright, hello and welcome to the final part of Ezio's Imperial Diplomacy playthrough. We have seen him go through hard times, we have seen him go through good times as Spain, and now we are going to see how the whole thing ends. Yeah, I'm just going to hand straight over to Ezio because we left this in spring 1649. In fact, I think we just finished talking about spring 1649, right?
Yep,
Important.
this was the phase. Again, as a quick reminder of everyone about how things are going, just to recap. There's big war going on between me and Mapuche for me trying to get big. I have just re-landed in Galicia. I've walked into Madrid as part of a deal with Portugal. Um, the big threat on the board at the moment is that Mali has just been convoyed over from Africa into South America, with Mapuche threatening to throw to Mali. And so Portugal and Ottomans and I are all working hard to stop Mali from soloing. And so this phase that's what this phase was all about, and so that's how these things worked out. Um, and that's why there was no support over here and lots of other stuff. So
Yes, as
we
per
can go
usual,
ahead now.
the best way to get completely opposing powers to work together is for another power to get even more threatening.
Yes. And yeah, it might be confusing because Ottomans are higher on the like VSCC thing, but they're a bigger power. They need to get 9 centers, whereas Mali only needs to get 8. So Mali is actually closer to soloing by just raw center count. And then it's the fact that someone's throwing to them, so we have to stop that.
Yes, because
Okay.
importantly, victory condition requires you to be a certain gap ahead of everyone else in terms of your percentage of your victory condition achieved. Right,
Yes.
you have to be over 100%, and you have to be 25% ahead of everyone else. It tends to be a lot easier for regionals to achieve that, especially if someone is throwing dots to them, because they can get a huge amount of percentage very, very quickly because their victory condition is so low.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Every center that these regionals get is like 3% of their VSCC, whereas for powers like Spain, it's only 2%.
yep.
So they get that 25% gap by only needing 9 centers, whereas we would need 13. So
Something like
it's
that.
very significant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
alright. Well,
The
shall
exact
we.
math changes between like which regional power you're talking about, obviously, because like Spain needs the 64, and there's these 32s versus 36s versus 42s, and the numbers are remarkably like the percentage change with all of them. But this is how this phase goes. Watch the other video for the full in-depth talk about it,
Yep.
which I'm sure we gave and did justice to.
hmm
Okay.
So now we've got
Um,
retreats, right? I don't know if there's
yes.
any particularly important ones.
Nah. England's getting smacked around.
Well, you say they're getting smacked around. They managed to get Edinburgh back, so that's
Yeah,
something.
but yeah, we'll see if they can hold it. Um, yeah, there were no real port retreats here because there were not a lot of places to go. I don't think I talked much about Ching. Whatever. Okay. Um, so before I show you guys the next moves, I actually remember a lot about this particular phase. Because this one seemed really, really important to me. So last phase, right? Molly was soloing. Coalition between us to stop Molly from soloing. Um,
hmm
in this phase, um, I talked to Molly extensively, and I thought that their solo threats weren't, or they were. I didn't think they were a real solo threat. Basically, I looked at how things were going in my war against Mapuche, and I felt very confident that Molly wasn't going to get enough centers to solo. I didn't tell this to Ottomans in Portugal really, because I really wanted them to stay hard focused on Mali instead of me, because I saw an opportunity to reclaim my homeland and to be actually secure in Iberia. Whereas I hadn't been secure in Iberia in years. So I talked with Portugal and Ottomans about tactics in this phase, and Portugal continued their trend of being incredibly difficult to work with, and they left an opening in their tactics. And so I was very confident I was going to be able to retake Madrid, Gibraltar, and Valencia
all
this
in
phase.
all in this phase. Ooh.
Yes.
Are they
And
convoying
so I
Valencia
was
out at
like, all
all?
right, I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm. Uh, did
I
they?
didn't actively sabotage anything else that Portugal was doing. I was still attempting to work with them. But part of the annoyance was there were lots of things that I wanted Portugal to do in order to help with the war effort. Stuff like moving Cape Coe over to Cape Basin, which seems important against Mapuche. And they say no, because Southern Sea might walk in.
Mm-hmm.
Or other minor things. I
All,
think it's involving these centers. I forget all of the exact details about it, but Portugal continued to be a pain in the ass to work with, and I, at some point, had had enough and figured I could grow a lot.
right.
Now, the way that I was going to make sure that Mali didn't solo was twofold. One, I was going to do my best to stop them from taking any dots from Mapuche, so I was going to continue my war on that front. And also, I was going to grow a lot myself to stay within that 25% mark of first place. So I was at 47, and in order for me to get to 80, I think I had to get to like, I want to say like 58 supply centers or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I needed to grow a ton. But as you'll notice, I've positioned myself to stab Netherlands finally and actually take dots in Indonesia and dots in North America. So I felt this was a time to make that move. And so this phase, I decided I'm going to actually finally try to grow as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Um, except against Shoshone. I'm still not planning on stabbing Shoshone. I am positioning myself where if there's an opportunity, let's do it. But let's see. I'm not stabbing my North American allies yet. I'm stabbing the rest of the world, basically.
Yep. I mean that seems fair. It's always a bit of a difficult choice to make to suddenly go all out to try and grow because the opinion of the board can flip on you, right? If everyone's going, "Oh, Mali's a solo threat," and then you go +8 or something, then they go, "Oh, Spain might actually be the solo threat," and then Mali suddenly gets a bit of a free ride from where they are, right? Um,
Yeah.
but
It's a fine line. I've been on this line with the Ottomans where I need to stay strong and grow a lot, but I also need to make sure that they stay stronger than me. At this point, I stopped feeling that way.
mhm.
Um, I saw how the board had react to Ottomans. Namely, nobody seems to really care that much except for me and Moogles. And so I figured, all right, it'll be fine.
Mhm. All right.
Let's see the moves, eh?
Yeah, go ahead. Oh yeah, I do also want to note that the I think one of the most commented things on the last episode was that Shoshone is pronounced Shoshone and not Shoshone. Although
Yeah,
if you just read it, it sounds like it looks like it should be Shoshone, right? But that's
yeah,
just. I think we're
yeah,
always gonna trip over some pronunciation here, but let's.
yeah. And some are tougher than others because I've been saying them for longer
Mhm.
incorrectly.
Yeah, that's always the way. I have a bit of an advantage on Shoshone because I've played a lot of Civilization 5 and they appear in that one.
Pronounce it correctly there.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, hang on. Did Mapuche NMR this phase?
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
that made things easier.
yeah, that's a bit of an advantage on your part. No more Malian armies getting convoyed over to Mapuche lands for
Yes.
one.
And so this is why I think Molly was so eager to work with me this phase and to explain to me how the solo wasn't going to happen, and was eager to try to solidify something with me. I think this phase, I think there was one of these phases where I misorder and I get agreements from Molly and uh, Netherlands to get me supported into South Atlantic Ocean, or Inuit maybe, to get me supported into South Atlantic Ocean, but I attack with the wrong units. So North Atlantic Ocean, I think, is supporting Guiana Current into SAO 1, but Guiana Current is moving into SAO 4, and I think Mali, no, Netherlands is supporting NAO 1 into no, this one is supporting.
It looks like
What
they
is? I got
line
them
up
flipped.
here.
Well, I think they're not. I'm pretty sure there's maybe it's next phase.
Oh no, you're right. They didn't get
No,
in.
right?
Okay.
It looks like they line up, but they don't line up. There's a misorder here. I got the attacks flipped, and so I don't take South Atlantic Ocean nearly as much as I thought I should, in spite of the NMR. It was actually very, it was potentially brutal because I needed to control South Atlantic Ocean if Mapuche was continuing to throw to Mali, then I needed to dominate SAO as much as possible. And I was going to have 3 fleets in here with full backfill, but instead that didn't happen. But thankfully, the Mapuche NMR meant that there weren't too many issues. So this went fantastically. We love it. The NMR over here from Mapuche also meant that I took Flores and Timor with no problems, as opposed to Timor Sea bouncing one of them, which I assumed they would do.
So, question: was that like actually a stab on Netherlands going into Flores and Timor, or were you just saying,
Yes.
"Hey, I'm covering this against Mapuche"?
No. This was a stab.
Okay.
I also took Cayenne
Yes.
and Colina.
And
The
transitive
bounce to St.
signals.
Louis was arranged,
Oh, okay.
but everything else was not.
Yep.
But
Big
I mean, yeah,
rebels.
Netherlands. At some point, I was going to take these dots, and they had shown to be unreliable as a vassal. They've NMR'd a few times. They weren't doing exactly what I wanted every time, and so I decided I would just take their dots.
Mm-hmm.
Finally,
And I see Shoshone getting more armies into South America at this point. There's another convoy
yes,
over from Miwok into Chiloe. Um,
yep.
it's pretty solid route of expansion. Like I was worried that Shoshone didn't really have another route of expansion. This certainly fixes that issue.
Yeah, exactly. That was the idea because at this point, I am still thinking let's do like a 6-way draw, if not the full perfect 8-way draw that gets everyone into it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but um, yeah, that gets everyone. But I thought that was going to work out, and so I want Shoshone to be in there because they've been one of my closest allies the entire game. We've been working together. We've crushed all of North America. We've stayed safe. Look at how demilitarized this whole place is. It's amazing, right? We
Yeah.
coordinated to conquer North Pacific. We've crushed Mapuche now. Like, I don't know. I want to. We could win, right? No reason to have any issues. Inuits got their growth. So yeah, the 3 of us, we had that chat called the 3 winners. Let's make it happen. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, so the 3 of us, and then probably Molly and I say probably, yeah, Molly and Ottomans are going to be in there, and then one other person can get in there. I don't know, maybe Ching, maybe Mughals, maybe Austria. Like someone else can get in, surely, right? There's no rush, there's no problems. Um, and yeah, if we look back at Iberia, we can see that I just did it right. I knew what tactics Portugal was going for. And I just walked into Gibraltar and Madrid. I supported myself into Valencia, so I conquered all of them and popped the army here.
Mm-hmm. I
Boom.
mean, it's kind of rude of Portugal to even try coring that. Um,
I mean, I tried to core Gibraltar, right? But
mm-hmm.
then they convoyed out, so I assume something similar was going to happen here.
Yeah, it's
But
probably just, I think there's some, at least at the start of my Imperial Diplomacy game, right? My general view was if you have a hold and it doesn't need to be support held and it's on a supply center, you may as well issue a core because then it's doing something. It feels better than a hold, right? And
yes,
there are reasons not to do that. Like, it can get your neighbors very nervous. That wasn't something that I initially considered when I was looking at my own game. But yeah, it still feels right a lot of the time. Just because you never like issuing a hold order. Hold orders are really like unfun to order.
I think for more of the regional powers, which powers with fewer units, issuing cores is a much harder decision because they have to really weigh how much this unit is going to give them versus how important that core is in the future. And so for them, it's such a big tempo loss to give up whatever. If they only have 10 units, scoring with one of them is a significant cost. And so they have to really to want to actually core it. Whereas with me, I just felt like, I have units lying around. They're not doing anything anyways, might as well. With some exceptions. You'll notice in Cherokee, I wasn't coring this because obviously I didn't want to core anything else in North America. We're still friendly. Let's stay friendly and we can be fine.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, I have armies still, obviously, right? Again, if an opportunity arises and I'm going for a solo, maybe I'll need to stab Shoshone. But really, it's just like, I have some units sliding around for fun.
Yeah, I did want to quickly look. How many provinces have you actually called this game? Because you have Norfolk, right? And you called Caracas?
Yes, I've cored Norfolk, I've cored Caracas, I've cored Galapagos, I cored Hawaii.
And Barbuda, was that?
Yes, I've cored Barbuda at this point. That's true.
So that's a pretty substantial number of cores, and they're all on front lines, which is pretty solid. But yeah, the fact that you have, what, 48...
Oh yeah, I've also cored Tangier and Marrakesh.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, the fact that you have, like, 48 units and you've only cored... I say only, it's still quite a substantial number of centers, right? Seven dots?
Sure.
6 dots? Whatever, something along those lines. Shows how difficult it would be for a regional as well. Because, like, you have all these extra units, and yet that's the number that you've cored in total.
Yeah, over the entire game, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like many, but I might have cored more than anyone else.
It is, I think it's a pretty substantial number. Because I was initially going to make the point that, oh, you probably didn't get to core all that much, and then I looked at how many you actually cored, and I'm like, okay, actually, that's quite a lot more than I thought you had.
Yeah, I mean, I had a ton of space, right? I had no enemies, and so my armies in a lot of places had nothing else to do.
Yep.
Again, like I said earlier, Caracas was the only core that I looked at and thought I actually really want to have this center chord because of how easily it let me slip out into the east with its Gulf of Paria access and Caribbean Sea. So this felt like a really important spot for me to build fleets. Norfolk was nice to just, hey, I can build armies and get them convoyed over easily. So that felt good.
Mm-hmm. And it gives you an excuse not to have to pull your defensive armies out of North America, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's like, I've done some convoying. Like, I think the convoy into Galicia came from North America, so one army moved away. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I do notice that the arranged bounce in Philadelphia there is it's not really that like good of a defensive strategy, right? It's just that you still have to trust the other person as Shoshone because you could have decided to just go into New Amsterdam. As Shoshone in that position, I would have just asked you to move Maryland somewhere else. But maybe you want it there for convoying?
Yeah, it borders Gulfstream, and so it can get convoyed out. When I have a fleet there, which I don't right now, but don't worry about that. But yeah, that's why I wanted to keep an army over here.
Yep, that's fair enough.
And like again, we've been working together, right? We've been coordinating everywhere. Like I'm not gonna just dot someone here.
Yep.
Right? Not over this. Right.
Yeah, Ezio would never just dot you. That would never happen.
The better, like, some relationships are just like that. And if you look at North America like this, right? Mm-hmm. Look at how few armies there are, and look at how like Shoshone has been waving builds pretty much the entire game. Right. I mean, I say right, but yeah, they've been waving builds almost the entire game, and almost every phase you've had a discussion like, do we want to put down armies in more armies over here to stay safe? And I keep pushing back, saying absolutely not. Why would he build armies over here? Because like we're safe in North America, we don't have to worry about anything. And the armies there will just raise tensions. We'll both start to look at tactics more and be more and more scared. If we just like. There's no other threat. It's just us, and we trust each other, so no armies. Mm-hmm. And obviously, this has been amazing for me because I haven't had the resources to, like, I haven't been waving builds for a while now. And so if I've had to plop down extra armies, I would be in really bad shape. Whereas if Shoshone had just built armies, then they would probably haven't been able to take stuff. You'll notice that's why I've been moving this army back west, because I realize I want to be able to cover some things in case they do put down armies. But
Yes. Yeah.
Either way, I wasn't willing to risk that. And by dotting someone, that's a. Did I move back? Sorry. Yeah, here we go. The moves.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. If by dotting someone, yeah, I'm going to induce them to put down armies and be like, I don't want you to dot me anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah,
with that kind of border, if you are gonna make a stab, you want it to be an all-in stab, right? You want to take a lot at once, because there's no point in getting them to militarize a border that they were leaving open to you for one dot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also interested in the convoy into Regibat there. That's a fun little strategy. Or rage bait. We still don't know how to pronounce that one. It ends up cutting the support there. Was it intended to actually go, or just because
this is supporting it. Yeah, Tigger Bay supporting it in, and it's just weird.
You just stabbed Portugal for a lot, right? So getting out of Rabat feels dangerous, but maybe you just give up. I guess you just give up Rabat anyway. You don't care about that, right?
Yeah.
You're much more focused on Iberia.
Also, though, and like if Molly and I coordinate, it's unclear just how much I get wrecked, but I'm fine losing Rabat. It's one dot. It's not even a core. It's over here. It's fine. I really don't care that much about it.
Mm-hmm.
But getting all of my Iberian cores back is, that feels great.
Yep. All right. Was there anything else? I guess we haven't looked at Southeast Asia.
So relevant. I'd been working with Ayutthaya here, and I think we finally managed to actually have a setup where we're gonna be okay. And that I'm finally stabbing Netherlands, the thing they've been asking me to do for pretty much the entire game, and I've not done it until now, and so I'm pretty optimistic things are gonna work out for the two of us, and they're gonna take a center next year, and then I'm hoping we can coordinate. So we'll take Manado, Makassar as well. One of us will take one of each, and then we'll be friends.
Mm-hmm.
And based on the fact that they've been at war with their other neighbors finally for a couple of years, I think they would actually like to demilitarize this front, get a couple of gains, and use those gains to reinforce elsewhere. So I'm optimistic about that. So you see me back out of Luzon Strait for the first time in a while. I keep doing this bounce in East China Sea with Amami, like Qing. It's a weird one, because like we both each just dot each other, but whatever. I kind of get it. East China Sea is important, and I assume they see it as a threat, like into their core, their heartland, and so I say, okay, fine, let's bounce in East China Sea, go for it.
Yeah, I mean it is true. You don't really have enough fleets in the area to follow up massively on a stab into Amami, right? You can get one extra one by moving Luzon up, but it doesn't really help push into Japan all that much. So yeah, I think I prefer doing what they're doing and just covering East China Sea. It's that seems better.
This is something I tried to make clear to Ching, is that I'm not going to attack you. I don't have enough units in the area. I'm not going all in against you at all. I don't gain anything, so I was trying to get these demilitarized, but whatever. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm content to leave the unit here, and maybe they get too comfortable with this southern border and I can do something. But probably unlikely. Just don't attack me, right? I need to have units so if they attack me, I can retreat, and I guess it'll all work out. But it's fine. It's useful. Meanwhile, Molly and the Ottomans are like still fighting each other. Lots of tactics, lots of shooting, but because of the whole Mapuche anymore, there's really nothing. And so if we look at center counts, double check, I'm at 47. Then I'm at 58.
Plus 11. Wow. I mean, this is pre-retreats, but they can't really retreat into anything like threatening to you, right?
It's definitely the most plus like It's almost as much plus as I went on the first turn of the game. I think it might in the first year. I think it might literally be as much as then. Because I didn't grow that much at the very start, but then quite double. But yeah, it was amazing. And because I went for these easy dots, right? I finally these dots of Netherlands have been mine for a while, but I only took them now, and I did that while also taking these dots, and I could have taken one of them a long time ago, but I finally capitalized, and then Mapuche and Amard.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
I was quite surprised. Can you go back just to the moves again and look at North Africa? I thought that convoy out from Porto succeeded, because Tangier went to Marrakesh, and Marrakesh went to Ghadames with Tripoli support, right? And you cut Regibat. Oh, Rif cut Tunis. Okay, never mind. Yeah. So none of that succeeded. Would have been even better if Portugal had taken their army off of Iberia.
Oh, yeah. Oh god, yes. If Porto wasn't in Iberia, then it would be even better. You're completely right. I would absolutely crush everything instead of still mostly crushing everything, because I've still got 2 armies now to the Portuguese, 1, and I've got fleets ready to fight them for Azores. And you see, I could have even taken more. I could have taken Azores. And this was intended as a way for me to say, look, I recaptured the stuff that you took from me. That's it. Like, I got back my cores. I didn't mess with you against Mali. I all of the parts of our deals that were attacking them, I stuck to. So
do you think that line of
can
reasoning
still
is
technically work
actually
together.
gonna work?
Huh?
Do you think that line of reasoning is gonna work? Like trying to
I
say,
think they hate Mali more than they hate me up until this point. And so I think there is a real chance of this being successful. Because again, like, I could have taken Azores, right? But I didn't even try. I didn't make any shot for Azores. Like, that is, I think, relevant. And then with Rabat, I forget exactly what I do, but I'm pretty sure Anfa supports Tangier into Marrakesh. I think Rabat might do the same.
No, Rabat goes via convoy to Regibat, right?
Maybe, probably. Yeah, I think so. And so it's like, I stick to that part of the plan, which is a relevant part of the thing. And I don't know, when you've stabbed someone and then they take back the things that you stabbed them for, are you like, do you get all, like, how do you feel about that? Right? Like, how do you say, you don't have the moral high ground anymore?
Yeah, I completely get what you're saying, right? I also think in a position like the Portuguese one here, I would be super cautious about... Well, in this case, I would just basically say the relationship is probably gone, so it doesn't really matter all that much. But if you were relying on Portugal to continue working with you, right, then I just wouldn't risk this at all, because even if it makes logical sense for them to continue to be on your side, when someone can't win anymore or is very, very low on supply centers, you don't want to annoy them at all if you need their help, because they don't really have an incentive to do the most logical thing anymore, right?
Yeah.
They'll do whatever they want to. So you need to make sure that what they want to do is in your interest.
Yep. I think that's very fair. And so after I do this, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go and attack Portugal with everything I got, and that's fine. But I like giving myself outs, because sometimes people take them, and sometimes people are like, you know what, I get it, right? And if Portugal had diplomacy this very differently, in a way that they basically hadn't played all game, but some people I would do this to, and then I would, after taking these centers, feel comfortable leaving it at that. Like, I've played games where I've done more minor things, but like, I don't know, you play Russia, and then like, England snipes St. Petersburg from you, and then later on in the game, you stab them and retake St. Petersburg, and then England is like, all right, fair shot. Well done. Okay. Like, I don't know. I've had that happen before.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I didn't think it was impossible. But your point about them being irrational because they can't win anymore is very true. And so I need to figure out how to mitigate that and ensure they don't win. Rest of the board, I don't really remember that much. There's still the war between Austria and Sweden. They're not doing anything. France finally gets cleaned up, so Austria has claimed all of it. That relationship is still strong, for what it's worth, I've been friends with Austria, and it's not that critical anymore because I've been working with the Ottomans now against Mali, and so I'm not supporting Austria in the Mediterranean anymore,
Yeah.
and so that's why this stuff got popped up.
It leads to an interesting problem, right? Because Austria still needs a bunch more sensors to get up to VSCC, I think. I can't
Yeah,
remember what they got to, but it looks like they've conquered
they're only at 22.
it looks like they've conquered everything they can, right? They can try and fight Ottomans, but Ottomans is quite strong on that line. They can't really go for you because there's, your border between France and Spain is like impenetrable. Um, where do they go?
Yeah,
That's a tough
they've been
question.
trying to go north,
Hmm.
but obviously that's not going to happen.
Yeah, maybe if Inuit manages to convoy something into northern Sweden, but it looks like Inuit is more focused on Britain right now, which
Yeah.
is
It is worth noting for Austria, they have managed to get Utrecht cored and open,
oh,
and Ghent cored and open. So they are able to build some fleets which can put pressure on these fronts.
mhm.
So they're going to have a chance to get there.
It's so
But
slow though. Look how many fleets are there for Sweden, just like
oh,
blocking up that.
absolutely, it's not going to work, but it's what they're trying,
Mhm.
and it's a reasonable shot because at this point, I agree. What else can they do?
Yeah,
Right? Try to send a bunch of armies into the Ottoman front,
it's not gonna
okay, they
work.
can slip into Ruthenia, but maybe they take Sarajevo again while they're in Strait of Otranto. But if they don't have enough fleets to break into the Med, even if they coordinate hard with me, like I don't know what are they supposed to do?
Yeah, it seems like a non-starter.
Yeah, it's just I think it's just the strategic position that they've put themselves in. And it's tough because I think Austria is a really terrible top. I'm gonna stress that this is like the best Austria has been in any of the games. I think so. Still credit here, but I just think that this position is unwinnable.
Mhm.
And when you try to be talking about the winners, I didn't think Austria had a chance. Um, like I
Yeah.
don't think they're gonna make it in. Like unless we get to a coordinated thing where Ottomans and I are like, okay, we're crushing and we want to throw you a bone. You've been a solid ally, so let's put you in. But because again, right, mutual winners, that's still totally possible, and I think that's really their only chance to get in at this point.
Mhm.
Unless they can find a way to make peace with Sweden and then attack someone else together, but get these fleets out of here. Um, it's such a hard thing to do because if you make peace, you're almost certainly going to have to cede some centers over here to Sweden, and then yeah, we need you to gain centers, not go down to. So where do you go from here? It seems really tough, but
Yeah, that's super difficult.
yeah, I think it's like a couple of years back, Austria needed like a couple of years ago, Austria needed to not do it. And it's tough because when every incremental step makes sense, you're like, I don't know. It's tough.
They've
But I think
actually
like around
lost
here,
ground against Sweden, haven't they? Because
yeah,
they used to own
because
Kiel
Sweden's
and
got the
Lubeck.
fleets. Yep. Too many
Mhm.
fleets over here, you can't do anything. But I think it's like back to here. They needed to try to find a way to say, hey, if I just cede Kiel to you, let's go crush Poland and then hit Ottomans together when they have this position over here. I think they needed to find some way to peace out with Sweden, but
Mhm.
that obviously didn't happen.
Yep.
Um, and
So
that's rough.
I
Yeah.
well, it's going to be interesting to see what they try and do from here because I don't even know what I'd try to do in that position. That's really tough.
Yeah.
I would try and ask someone to convoy me somewhere, but I don't know where. Like it's so. Maybe you go to Inuit and say, "Please, can I get into England?" But even that, there's not enough centers there, right?
Oh,
Um,
but it's a couple, right? And you
mhm.
have to just get a couple centers from everywhere, right? Because they're at 23, I think. So they need 9 centers. So if they can get 2 centers off of Sweden, okay, Sweden they need to take more centers off of. But if they can get like 2 centers off of England, 2 centers off of Sweden, they take Genoa and Barcelona maybe from me, and then maybe they can take Sarajevo and Athens from Ottomans, and that's 9, right? Don't worry
Yeah,
about my counting; it's
Sarajevo and
probably wrong.
Athens is a stretch.
What? I mean, yes, but also maybe they'll give it to you.
Mm,
I don't know. Anyway, it's like I said, it's really tough.
yep.
Um, Okay, so we have some retreats, and we can take another look at the Mapuche position down here. There was a sub for Mapuche at this point,
Mm-hmm.
and so a different Mapuche took over, and credit to this Mapuche player for taking over this position, because you have to pay me to take over this Mapuche.
It's not a fun spot, yeah.
Yeah, it's just completely cooked.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have builds. I have 11 builds. I can build in Iberia. Barcelona is open.
Yeah, you can only build in one of the... You surely don't have 11 cores open, right?
Surely I do.
Uh,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
yeah, because you called
6,
a bunch.
7.
This
Maybe I
is,
already counted that one. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
okay. This is one of those
I
turns
have more
where
than
it's
11 cores.
where
Yeah.
it's a case of deciding where not to build rather than deciding where to build, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna
And I wait
assume
for
that
builds,
the
actually.
where not to build would be in Nueva Vizcaya if you're keeping your alliance with Shoshone.
Yep.
This is even assuming that you... Like, I assume you would waive that even if everywhere had... Like, even if you had
Yeah.
enough builds to build
I
everywhere.
would rather not have an army there at the moment. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Notably, Shoshone has a few extra builds as well. And so I'm going to put something down. And so Army Saltillo is what I decide on. Saltillo is what I decide on here. Because I don't, like, obviously if they keep building stuff, it's going to be scary. So
Yep.
let's not do that. Also, importantly, this is where after this turn, I have a serious talk with Molly and Ottomans about a three-way draw.
Mm-hmm.
Draw victory. They've kept calling it three-way draws, and I fell into that habit. I do not give it like that. I'm serious. It's just that's the terminology that these guys were using because Molly and Ottomans were thinking of this kind of like draw size scoring, and they just felt the fewer people who made it into the end of the game in Imperial Unity with them, the better. And so they wanted a three-way draw. And I said, all right, you know what? Fine. I think we can actually do that. I only have to take 6 centers. Molly only has to take 3. Ottoman has to take 5. I'm sure this can happen. And so I spent some time just like doing some math with them. And I'm like, all right, what centers? How many more do you need to take Ottomans? Where are you getting them? Do you need any from me? And Ottomans are like, they probably don't need anything from me. They think they got it. And okay, I believe that. I just went plus 11. Surely I can go plus 6 this year. I'm looking at it and it's like, all right, I can probably get something from South America. I can probably get like 1 or 2 off South America. I can certainly get another one over here. That's only 3. Where do the rest come from? Well, I've had these great allies this whole game. I might need to stab them. But
Ooh.
getting into the win is important. Like, that's fine. We'll see, but I suspect I can get the dots anyways, even if we don't necessarily need, even if we're trying to end the game this year, I can position myself to take centers and then decide not to take them as the situation comes up or not.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll be okay either way. And like, oh yeah, I can certainly take some more from Portugal. Like this position is not very strong for them. And if Molly and I are coordinating, we can crush very effectively. Oh yeah, plus like St. Louis and Mariestad, these are centers I can probably take. And so I'm looking at it thinking it's incredibly likely I can get to 100% this year if I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume Molly and Ottomans can do the same. So at this point, yeah, all right, fine. Like I'll go for it. Let's get to 100%. And maybe I won't stab. Maybe I will. But that's what we're talking about in builds. That's the agreement that we've gotten ourselves into, and it's looking good.
Yep. All right. Well, let's have a look at the builds then.
Do builds go?
Oh yeah, we've got the VSCC on the right hand side. By the way, the percentages, as you can see, Mali's at 96.4, so it's just only one off 100 right now.
1 off 100, yes.
But
notably, both Ottomans and I were well within that 25% mark.
Yes.
So even if they had gotten that one supply center to get to 32, then the game would not have ended. Either one of us would have been enough to stop them from winning.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was part of why I wanted to grow so much, was to ensure that Molly did not win.
Yes, and importantly, the next closest power to you is Inuit, who is at 71%, but they're a 36 win condition power, right? They start with 5 supply centers, so each one of their dots counts for slightly less than someone like Austria, for example, would. So
Yeah,
I
but it's
think
still pretty similar.
it's kind of it's like very possible for the three of you to just try and run for the solo here, but you need to
Yeah,
make sure that Inuit stays down and that Austria
yeah.
stays down.
As we noticed, right, I've been in North Atlantic Ocean for eons now with Inuit, and there's been this center that Inuit has that's right next to North Atlantic Ocean that I can very easily stab for. And in North Pacific Ocean, I've been sitting here for eons, and there's this dot right here that I can also very easily stab for.
Mhm.
And so when I said last year that I was like trying to grow as much as possible, as quickly as possible, there's like short term growth, right? Obviously, this is a center that I can not realistically hold,
Yeah.
and this one as well. And so I don't consider those ones growth in the same way because I don't take them and keep them. It's very much the thing that like I could take them to make someone's like the last year of the game, right? Those crazy moves you make to try to dot somebody that you know you can't hold, but it gets you to the win or not. It's just that type of move.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Um.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so the main thing from builds is that Shoshone builds armies.
Ooh. Did they
And
agree
it's
that
like,
with you?
what? No, no. They stabbed me.
Oh.
They built two armies. And I'm like, what? Like, not even an army in Miwok that can get convoyed out. They just slapped two armies on their home. And I'm like, excuse you?
Is it? I
Like, and they're
assume
like,
it's just because they thought that you were making a solo run or something with the
yeah,
plus 11.
exactly.
Right?
They're like,
Oh.
dude, you had 11 builds. Like, of course you're going to put down armies in North America in their defense. I did. But I put them down separately. Norfolk is probably going to get convoyed out, and it's only an army of Saltillo. But it's like, of course I did this. And it was very reasonable. I think, I mean, I don't know. I would have played very differently, the entire game differently from Shoshone. But
Mm-hmm.
they did this, and I started analyzing the war between me and Shoshone pretty closely, with me adding these couple of armies in the position that I had. And what I realized is that Shoshone's position is absolute ass.
Yep.
It looks way more threatening than it actually is, but they have spread themselves so thin with this cluster of armies in the east that has no naval support, and Iowa is not strongly defended and can only get defended if some units head south. And so I realized that even if we have a real war right now, I will probably lose Nueva Vizcaya and nothing else for a long time. And I will eventually can cut them off and then take these centers over here in the east,
Yeah.
basically, because I have naval support and they don't. But what I think is a much better way to approach it is to just try to de-escalate this and get them to not attack me. And I realized that that's might work. Like there have been a lot of times this game where I thought Shoshone was going to attack me, and then I convinced them not to. Slash, they decided not to, more accurately. And so maybe this will be another time.
Mm-hmm. But surely you move
Like,
defensively anyway, right? You move up to
exactly.
with Karankawa or something along those
Yeah,
lines. So.
and I say defensively. I move like we're at war, which is to say, I'm going to try to take as much as I can from them and defend what I can, but try to be right. I just pretended I moved like we were at war, but my negotiations with them were very much the all right. Let's try to de-escalate this as much as possible, and they were so apologetic. They were so like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I was so confident you were building in Nueva. I thought you were going to try to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, fair, reasonable, right? You just saw me kill one of my longtime vassals in the Netherlands and take 4 centers off of them. You see that I'm at whatever 87% of the way there with 2 other people who are all very near the top. It's a very natural thing to assume.
Yes.
It's yeah, of course. But also we had been allies the whole game, and I was serious about trying to get them into the end. Like, if they don't build these armies, I still don't know how the end of this game goes. I might have stabbed them still because, like I said, I'm trying to get like there's a solid chance we just get this 3-way draw this year with me, Molly, and Ottomans.
Yeah.
And so I might have gone for dots anyways. And if you don't have these armies, then I can like guaranteed take Arapaho as well. Yeah, that's a solid pitch. Um, More than that, maybe I think I can solo if they don't build these armies here, because I can just take, like, I could take Arapaho. They don't get any builds. I'm probably going to take stuff over here and then crush them, but then I think Inuit would start propping them up.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. Either way, I don't know how the end of this game goes, because I'm content to let this game drag out at this point. I don't feel a need to rush. I think my position is incredibly stable. Iberia is finally secure for the first time in forever. I got a build. Ah, yes. And I built an army, not a fleet, because I'm trying to make peace with the Ottomans, right? We're good. Obviously, they don't want any more fleets in the Med, so I built an army to help me stay secure. Plus, I might go to Madrid to help me take stuff from Portugal. And like my holdings in South America, obviously, are not at risk, right? No one's like,
yeah,
no one's gonna come close to taking anything. Right? No one's going to border anything in years. So I'm just going to keep pushing on Mapuche. So because of how stable my position is, I think this game can go for a long time. And I don't need it to end particularly quickly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you build in the Philippines?
Yeah.
I assume so.
2 fleets.
Yeah, double fleet. Alright.
Yeah.
Is Ayutthaya happy about that?
No. But they have no room to complain. They built another fleet on the east coast of Nakhon, whatever this
Nakhon
is.
Sea, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, what? Oh, come on. And then, obviously, it's very reasonable, because, of course, they built fleets. Like, what are they not going to build fleets?
Like, it goes, well, you had 11 builds. What were you going to do with those? Of course they were coming in. Yep.
Yeah, but also, like, it's just this sort of thing. It's so hard to demilitarize a border when you keep building units that have to go this way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like...
Well, yeah, but you, like, you're not demilitarizing it either with your builds everywhere.
Yeah, but it's not clear where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my fleets are still very flexible. Manila's almost certainly going north to reinforce these lines. And then what's Cebu doing?
Yeah.
But obviously, from their perspective, like, hey, what if you just moved into, I don't know, Natuna Sea and South China Sea, or like Luzon Strait and South China Sea?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, things get tough, and so
I also
I
feel
get
like
it.
as Ayutthaya here, yeah, I don't know where Ayutthaya is on the leaderboard, but they're fairly low, I'd assume, right? Well, they're in 9th. They have a long way to go, so they need to stall this game out, right?
Yep.
I think making sure that you can't stab them is kind of vital on that front.
Sure. Look, it's reasonable, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it, though. I think Cambodia can go there, and this can do something else. Like, obviously, from a very biased perspective as Spain, obviously, I think that's correct. When I look at it after the fact, it still might be correct. Because I think if they're trying to win, they need to take a lot of centers off of Mughals.
Mm-hmm.
And so they need to get that to happen. The argument, I don't know if I am the one who's going to be at risk of getting to 100% this game. So I don't think trying to deny me centers is exactly optimal.
Mm-hmm.
I think your best bet is probably trying to grow as fast as you can yourself. But
yeah.
I don't know. Like I've talked about in these Imperial games, balance of power on global maps is impossible. I assume we'll talk about this in CaptainMeme's game. But I don't think you can realistically stop people from getting huge. Basically, your only chance is to get huge yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Basically.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly have to prioritize your own expansion. Whether you can keep other people down at the same time, I think that's an interesting question that we'll discuss in a future series. But
your series. no spoilers. No spoilers. Questions for leaders, guys. But yeah, it's that idea. I think prioritizing zone growth is important, and I agree that there's a risk of me stabbing, and I think making sure that you don't look appealing to stab is an important part of it. And if they pull out of everything over here, then it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's fine. Those are builds. Qing does not put down any more fleets, which is lovely. I'm so happy to see that because they already have 1 million fleets, and I don't want them to have the luxury to contest more.
Yes.
Um, Ottomans don't have too many builds. They only put down 3, I see, which is nice. And they don't put down any more Mediterranean fleets. Not that they need any more, but they're whatever 6, 7.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, so annoying. But yeah,
Yeah, and Austria manages to put down those fleets that we were talking about.
hell yes. And then tried to build an army in Venice.
Mhm. When you say tried
Oops.
to, oh, it's not cord. Oh no!
I assume that was supposed to be in Trieste, but oops.
Ouch. Yeah, that's a painful one. I assume that was to reinforce their front against the Ottomans as well. It's
Unclear.
uh,
Unclear what that was supposed to do,
oh,
but
hang on. I guess it's also 2 moves away from Genoa, which is something. But I.
yup. Anyways, definitely not suspicious. This is one disorder that I did raise an eyebrow about. Austria also mentioned it to me.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, sure. And I didn't ask the obvious question of why Venice, not Trieste. But it's, I just don't ask a question if you don't want the answer to it.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, they were going. Well, clearly my borders aren't perfect yet. I need to color in Bavaria, right? With an
that's
army.
fair.
This is
Honestly, Bavaria was tilting me at this point in the game. Um, Not Liege, because, I don't know, it felt... But Bavaria, man?
Mhm.
Ugh,
I'm curious
whatever. It keeps the wheel.
how many things on the border still neutral. Like I see JLo and a couple in Saudi Arabia. There's like some in Madagascar, which is and just South Africa in general. I'm surprised to see that area so empty. Like in a lot of other games, that all gets filled in very quickly.
Yeah,
Portugal
he
clearly didn't fight many people
kind
there.
of won it.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
don't know.
Sonora was the other big one that's empty, which is in North America. It is between yourself and
Oh, yeah!
Shoshone.
Look at that. I wonder if it'll stay demilitarized. Hmm.
uh, all right, well, shall we go ahead then?
Yeah.
Okay, so on to the moves. It
And
does.
yes, it does.
Bloody hell.
Right? The surprise in your voice. I was astounded. Um, so this bounce and Sea of Cortez was arranged.
Hmm.
We agreed to it. Um, I get my army up to Guatemala Basin, and you see, I just make the most aggressive moves I can.
Hmm.
I'm ready to force Arapaho. I'm ready to force Iowa. I'm ready to force Philadelphia because they walked out of New Amsterdam because that was a thing they said they were going to do. I'm in Delaware Bay and still in Gulfstream. It's like, oh my god, they really didn't defend at all.
Jeez. I'm curious whether you
Oh,
felt bad here or whether you were just
oh
like, yum,
man.
supply centers.
Well, see, I don't feel bad yet.
Hmm.
But I realize at this point, oh my god, they actually were serious about this just being defensive and they weren't just making noises about it.
Hmm.
Because, again, I've played a lot of diplomacy, guys. I've played a lot of games where someone just says, oh, I was just being defensive and I was worried about it, and then they attack you anyways after they realize you weren't going to attack them. Clearly, that wasn't the case here.
Hmm.
But also, guys, look.
You
I
can't
don't
like
know.
not take stuff off them now, right? You've committed so heavily to it and it's so many centers. It's just like yeah, it's
Guys. I know it's a meme, but also, how many dots? There are so many dots. Ah! Um, so this is a good problem to have.
Hmm.
I can take a bunch of centers. Do I want them? And before we make that decision, let's take a look at the rest of the map.
Yep. Uh oh. Yeah, the Ottomans appear to be attacking you. That's Tyrrhenian Sea into Corsica, right? Uh and
That is turning C into Corsica.
yeah. Ouch. And Austria is going for Genoa,
Probably.
but not for your homeland, which is fine. I mean,
Probably. but also they're pulling Normandy south.
Yeah, the Great Big Conga line there is interesting, but like at least they didn't go into Aquitaine, which is
And Paris into Dijon.
oh, if they had managed to build Army Venice, the illegal build, they probably go into Aquitaine and Occitania, right?
Yeah,
Ooh.
probably. Hmm.
Well, that explains
All right.
where their growth was going to come from. Although I don't think it's enough growth. Like it's
I
just.
I completely agree. I think they can maybe take Barcelona, but whatever. It's we
Mhm.
don't have to worry about that. But then we look at I do get into Azores, but I lose Iberian Current, and Portugal does a solid job defending, so don't make much over here. And Ottomans are now in state of Gibraltar and Algerian Sea, and state of Bonifacio. Rabat's getting lost, of course. And then in South America, we can double check how tactics went, and the answer is not particularly well. I get popped in Cordoba, if you guys
Oh.
look at it. Just I don't remember exactly what. I know that I didn't spend that much time analyzing it. I kind of felt like this position was they were already cooked and it was over. And then Molly's tapping one of these two, but it taps the wrong one. And I like yeah, I don't know.
Is it taps the wrong one, or is it like tapped the wrong one with
Honestly, no
Mapuche's?
idea. I didn't ask you about this after the fact. But it's definitely the case where like, yikes.
Mhm.
Oh god. So how much progress am I gonna make down here? And then I lost to Shun or whatever.
Mhm.
To Ocean. And so after this phase, I look at it, and we can look at this area of the map.
Well, that's fine.
And
Nothing's happening.
yeah, nothing's happening. I'm getting into Bonda Sea, and here I'm working with Ayutthaya, and like yeah, we're gonna take Manado and Makassar. I'm gonna take Manado. He's gonna take Makassar, and we'll be demilitarized.
Mhm.
But with this phase, I look at it, and I'm not sure if I can actually go +6 this year
Mm.
if I don't stab Shoshone. Because
Yep.
I was assuming I was going to make lots of gains in South America. I was going to gain a couple, but I lost one center here. I'm getting popped in Cordoba. I'm going to be able to retake it, like with this conflict stuff, so that's fine. But I'm probably only going to gain one in this area. I had to double check tactics. I forget. I'm going to gain like only one or two. And I'm losing here. I'm losing Genoa. I'm losing Corsica. So shit. How how do I get there?
um,
Right?
I will say I actually think that the Ottomans attacking Strait of Gibraltar did save you a little bit. Because
Yeah.
getting that army
We don't want
convoyed
them to get
across
conflict back.
is so much more painful. But
Well, it's not that much more painful because, like, I would obviously rather, but like, this retreats fleet just retreats in the Strait of Gibraltar.
oh, of course, yeah. Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
That's pretty
so
bad.
it's a little bit nicer, but yeah, there's still hostile fleet in the Strait of Gibraltar and hostile unit in Gibraltar.
Mhm.
This move out of Gibraltar obviously was not ideal, but whatever. If Ottomans aren't like also moving into Strait of Bonifacio and taking Corsica, which they said they wouldn't, things will be fine.
Mhm.
And then it's at this part of the phase that Ottomans are like, yeah, I didn't think we were going to end the game this turn, so I wanted to make sure my position was still strong. And
Yep.
it's like, okay, fine. But also just like, tell me you're going to take Corsica and then we'll be okay. But
Wait, so
whatever.
Ottomans also stabbed Mali on this turn because they went, yeah, pretty all out
Yes.
on that front.
Yeah, because Mali were also struggling to get to their centers. Like, it wasn't going to be. Oh, they only needed one. Yeah, so they only needed one, but they looked at it and they're like, there's a chance that they don't get there, whatever. Slash, some of these we should have let Mali lose to Ottomans because Mali can get enough growth elsewhere and Mali has a harder time on it.
Mhm.
But like, these guys were not trying to just like, yeah, let's just actually end the game right now. They were very much in the let's fight, let's try to be the strongest, and let's like win just us type deal. As opposed to me, who's like, let's just why don't we just work things out and be clear about who's taking exactly what, and then we'll call it a day, and like we can actually organize things and have a guaranteed win.
Yep.
But that wasn't it.
Yeah,
That's not what was happening.
I think in your position here, I definitely just keep attacking Shoshone. As sad as it is, like, there are some stabs on people that feel absolutely miserable to make, and I think maybe the most miserable type is the one where you stab someone because you think they're gonna stab you, and they turn out to actually be like a really honest person who was just being honest with you in a way that you didn't expect that they ever would be because they're playing diplomacy, right?
Yep.
And then you've committed to that, so you now kind of have to follow through, even though it feels like the worst thing in the world to do. Yeah.
And then from the concrete perspective, do I win this game if I don't stab Shoshone?
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe. I could probably still get a lot of centers out of South America. If this game goes on a couple more years, if Mali gets stopped, if Ottomans don't snowball, then maybe. But like, if I feed them more centers, right? So let's say let's say I don't stab them, and let's say I let them stick to our deal where they get most of Argentina and Chile.
Mm-hmm.
So they go up on this thing, and they're at like the 75% mark. They need 12, like, let's say they take these centers, right? They take 1, 2, 3, 4 centers down here, right? Okay, great. Or they've already gotten one, so they only have 3 more to gain? No, plus the island. Okay, so they gain 4. They're up to 28. They still need 8 more centers.
Yeah. That feels difficult.
Inuit, right? Okay, they can get some centers off of Inuit, surely. But Inuit, they need 9 more centers. They can gain 1, 2, 3, 4 off of England. Okay, where does Inuit get their centers? They would need 5 more after that. They can't afford to lose any to Shoshone.
Yep.
How do we all win?
Those two kind of have to attack each other, which I don't think they're gonna do because they've been pretty rock solid all game, right?
And so then it's like, yeah, if Ottomans and Mali aren't going to make their growth from other powers, and they're like taking things off of me still, so I don't have the luxury of feeding centers to all of my allies, I need to kill them.
Yep.
R.I.P.
I'm
It's
curious what Inuit's reaction to you doing this was. Was it, oh, I can now get the dots I need by attacking Shoshone now that we're both going in? Or was it, how dare you attack my ally, I'm going to stick with them to the end?
Inuit said, alright, I guess that's easy. Sweet.
Okay.
That makes things a lot less complicated.
Alright then. God.
Yeah. I made the pitch to Inuit, and it was this weird thing where, like, I've trusted Inuit for pretty much the entire game. So Inuit was on this the entire time, and they knew what was going on this phase. I forget if I talked to them now or if I talked to them in the fall. Actually, let me double check the moves real quick. Sorry, guys.
Mm-hmm. It looks like they're still doing the same defensive moves in the fall.
So at this point, I'm still not yet saying let's go kill them.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I'm still being like, oh, sweet, Shoshone was my ally, and they didn't like stab me the way that I thought they were.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they didn't make defensive moves and stuff. So sweet, we can still work things out, probably. That's what I'm saying to them, and then I decide at some point during this phase that I have to kill Shoshone. And I don't tell Inuit that immediately. Because, first of all, I don't want Inuit to leak it. That would just not be ideal.
Yep.
Despite, obviously, this position being really brutal, if I can delay defensive moves for another turn, like, that'd be amazing. I love it. So that's good. And then I figure that if I continue this attack and I talk to Inuit after I've mostly crushed Shoshone, and then I say, like, look, Shoshone's clearly not winning this game anymore. You've been a good ally to them, but your only path to victory, like, it's not like there's 2 equal powers fighting here. It's me crushing them, and you can just scrape up what you can, and then you can probably also get into the win. Mm-hmm. Notably, maybe not even, but we'll see. So... that's the pitch that I want to give to Inuit. Plus, notably, if I'm trying to end the game this phase, which still looks possible, I hadn't fully looked at exactly how Ottomans get that many centers, but like they're gaining one here. There's a good chance that they can take other stuff from Tangier and Marrakesh. Like they're in, maybe not anymore actually, due to the tactics and letting Portugal. Either way, I'm like there might be a chance the game ends this year, and so if I want the game to end this year, I don't want Inuit to take a lot of centers from Shoshone, because the only way this game, one of the ways the game doesn't end is Inuit. You saw they were at 71%. If they get to like 75%, we all need to be one above our victory thresholds. So we really don't want Inuit to be growing if we want this to be a three-way draw between Mali, Spain, and Ottomans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if they stab this fall, obviously things will take a little longer to get there. So I don't want them to stab immediately, but I also want them to side with me instead of Shoshone when the time comes. So setting things up to just being stronger, like, yeah, makes sense.
Yep. This is completely unrelated, but what got convoyed into Chiloe down in the south there?
I think Hawaii.
Hawaii. Okay, that was right. And a Shoshone unit. God. So they're actually going to have quite a strong force in the south of South America, but it's kind of tough to push that anywhere beyond what they're immediately going to get, right? Because your line against them is gonna, well, the like, if you have three armies in a line on the south in like Cordoba, Calama, Buenos Aires, you don't need that many backup units behind that to just hold that against any army advance indefinitely. So yeah, I think it's gonna be tough for Shoshone to make anything happen out of that. I think
I didn't look at that too much. I was worried about Mapuche and Shoshone coordinating. If they use their fleets from Mapuche, and if Mapuche has any armies still around over here while Shoshone pushes up, then I'm in really bad shape.
Mm-hmm.
So that's actually why I left Teu Shen so much, because I really want Mapuche and Shoshone to be squabbling over these centers down here.
Yes.
So fine, it's okay if Mapuche takes that one. Shoshone can stay focused. There's this wall of neutrals over here, which walking through is a pain. So maybe they'll just keep fighting over this concentration of dots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we go to the fall?
Yeah, let's see how things go. Well, yeah, we have retreats, and I have retreats. Sadly, I have Iberian Current.
Mm-hmm.
I think I still have retreat. Maybe. Okay. But yeah, so let's see how things go. Shane was pissed on moving up into Luzon Strait.
I thought you. Oh, right, because you just vacated it. But they did try and support themselves into East China Sea. I assume that was
this was
arranged. Okay, right.
Yeah, this was agreed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fine.
All right. Well.
Here, Ching is like, "Hey, are you attacking Shoshone? Are you attacking Shoshone?" And I'm like, "No." What? Why would I be attacking Shoshone? What? No, no. And then everyone's like, "Hey, are you good job killing Shoshone?" And I'm like, "I don't know that I'm killing Shoshone yet." And I'm like, "Well, all right, yeah, sure, yeah."
Yep. You are the C.Take man. This is the well.
Like, there are so many thoughts, guys. I don't need to convince people why I would stab. It's just I don't know. This was the closest I was to not. I've just learned from experience that if you get yourself into a position like this, you're not going to get into this position again.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that I don't win this game is if I don't stab. Shoshone realizes they need to attack me to get enough centers to win, and then I get actually cut out from the draw by getting hit over here and hit over here. And it's like, if I attack Shoshone, I will always be in the draw.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. I think it is just objectively.
I get the win guaranteed, so I'll just do it. Okay, and then finally, we see moves, and
Arapaho, Iowa. Oh, you got Philadelphia and New Amsterdam as well.
Yep.
They couldn't even have blocked Philadelphia. I thought they still had a unit in Oneida, but
Oneida could have, I think.
No,
that's in Mohawk?
That's in Mohawk. Yeah, you had that.
Well, yeah, all right. I mean,
guaranteed.
yeah. So I had 4 centers guaranteed. Yeah.
Yep. That's pretty solid. And even after knocking them out of that, like, your front line is advanced a bit, but, like, they don't have the defensive units to hold what they have behind that, even.
Yeah.
So.
Remarkably, though,
They
Shoshone is still building.
They convoyed Chemu Heavy out? Like, where's that gone?
Sometimes into Gunai.
Did it get out? Yeah, I don't think it
I
got
don't think
out,
so,
right?
because I
Okay.
didn't support them.
Yeah, I.
This is a thing where we were like, "Hey, we can be friends, right?" And this was part of the whole negotiation. This is why, honestly, I was considering so much not actually stabbing and working with them, because they were still willing to work with me. Clearly, all of their press was indicative of this, and they were still like, "Hey, we can do stuff in South America. We can take Gunai." And like, yeah, I need to get 8 centers still, but look, I'm going to get a bunch off of here. I can get a couple off of Australia, some extra place to growth. And like, okay, yeah, I'm still short a bit, but we can figure stuff out. And that was just, I don't know, it was a really, really good pitch. And if I wasn't at risk of losing so much over here, if Ottomans weren't attacking me again, right, if we finally had a turn to stay peaceful, then I don't know, they probably would have been in here. It's just because of all of this pressure, I don't know.
Yeah.
I felt like I had to secure it. And there's a good chance I would have taken it anyways. Again, it's 4 guaranteed centers.
Yep.
Like, it's tough to turn that down. But from here now it's like yeah. And then in South America things went well. Like I took a little bit to recalibrate. It's like, oh yeah, I'm playing against a different player tactically, and so
You just focused on
things
everywhere
kind of
that
feel
wasn't
different.
a center here, right? Which
Yeah, the
works.
fall. It's just the places I could attack, and then guaranteed Cordoba. So like,
Yep.
yeah. And again, here I was really worried because if Shoshone and Mapuche had coordinated, and Buenos Aires had like supported Teoshen up into Karendi, and Mali didn't tap it, then I could have been popped and had a really rough time of things. Instead, though, with me getting a Mato Grosso, this this front is going to be crushed.
Yeah, and actually, also the Malian unit gets popped there as well, right?
Yeah, man, isn't that convenient?
I like
That's
the Malian
wonderful.
convoy into South Africa. This is unrelated, but I think
Yeah,
that's a really good way to get behind the Portuguese line here.
yeah, it's a guaranteed convoy too. So, I mean, unless it gets bounced or whatever.
Well, unless it gets dislodged from
Yeah. Sorry.
This is
Bounced
the
was the
danger of
word.
like convoying through any high seas provinces. Those units are usually very at risk. Like anything could dislodge them, but then on the flip side, nothing really wants to dislodge them because they can retreat to so many places if they do.
Yeah. Plus, this has not been a game for high seas provinces getting dislodged,
Yes.
right? This game has been one person slash one alliance commits to conquering the high seas, the oceans, and then they get the ocean.
Yep.
And nobody else is able to contest them for pretty much the entire game. There was the one turn where Mapuche got most of South Atlantic Ocean, and I could have taken it from them, and then Mapuche just collapsed. So that one is true, but North Atlantic Ocean and North Pacific Ocean have just been owned by me, Inuit, and Shoshone for the entire game.
Yeah.
Like, and then South Pacific Ocean, you can see I'm making money moves.
Yes. Uh, yeah, I did also want to note the like with a high seas convoy like that. This isn't all that relevant to the current situation, but I think it's an interesting tactical tip. Right, if you are worried about one of your units getting dislodged, rather than support holding it, which I think is what people instinctively do to try and make sure it doesn't get dislodged, right? Quite often it's better just to issue a bunch of your fleets in that high sea all convoy the same unit. Because then it's gonna get through on one of them. Like, they can't dislodge everything, usually, or they won't try and dislodge multiple things just because it takes so much effort, and if you dislodge multiple things from high seas provinces, they can retreat into the attackers' spaces by by having the different ones retreat into the ones that didn't attack them, right?
Yeah, there's a fun way to think about it, where if you're convoying with, if you add an additional support from SAO5 into SAO4, that unit can just be tapped. So it's like only adding +1 unit effective value to the convoy strength. If it's convoying itself, and like not to the to how much effort is needed to dislodge and stop the convoy. If you're convoying with it and they only tap it, your convoy is still going through.
Yep.
They need to then support it to dislodge it. And so it takes 2 units as opposed to only 1 to tap it. And so if you have 2 units convoying, they would need to spend 4 units to dislodge both, as opposed to if you support, they'll need to spend 3 units, 1 to tap and then 2 to dislodge.
Yes, exactly.
That's
so
a good way to think about it.
It's not mega relevant to this game. As you mentioned, the high seas haven't seen all that much conflict in this game. But I think it's relevant to Imperial diplomacy pretty heavily. So if you're playing in Imperial games, anything along those lines, then it's probably a good idea to take on board stuff like that, especially if you're playing a power like Tokugawa or something that needs high seas control.
Yeah. And so despite me, by the way, not telling Shing that I was attacking Shoshone, I did tap Edo. Just in case. Because I was like, hey, I'm going to try to stop Shoshone from building, and I want them to lose centers. I didn't think that closely about it, because, these units get popped anyways, but might as well try to make a friend over here. And so, Shoshone loses these 2, but Shoshone still takes 2 centers in South America, and I forget exactly how they end up building still, but I do know for a fact they are building. Very annoyingly, they can put an army down. So.
Yeah. Well.
So I do take Azores. We look over here at the Iberian front.
Great.
Man, I finally. Sorry?
You get Gibraltar. It worked out okay.
Yes, I do get Gibraltar. It doesn't get popped, unfortunately. But here, I was very close to not taking Gibraltar and getting wrecked by Ottomans tactically again, and then going for anything else. I forget. I think I was going to actually mess with this self-balance and support Bordeaux one, so I'm pretty sure that would have worked. But I felt that was riskier than just saying, you know what, screw it, I'll just support everything into Gibraltar. This isn't technically guaranteed. Obviously, Albor MC can also support Gibraltar into Valencia, but I think supporting Baleares up is very reasonable.
Yeah.
Now I've got hostile units. Hostile units instead of Gibraltar, Albor MC, Balearic Sea, Aquitaine, and Lusitania. We've lost Genoa.
Yeah.
Did I not move Ligurian Sea back? I remember debating. For here, it wasn't the question of if Austria wants to attack me. That I was expecting them to have Savoy hold, expecting me to cover Genoa. Then they move into Ligurian Sea, and then my fleet is going to get popped.
Oh,
and so
I see.
Yeah, so I figured holding was just going to be better, and then obviously I got wrong again.
Yeah, it should be
not my best turn tactically.
This is so incredibly dangerous again, right? Because I don't think we've talked about it this episode. If you've watched the other episodes, which you should have done if you're here, but then you will already know you have to control your capital in order to share in the win. You cannot win if you don't have your capital. So well as Ezio does everywhere else, if you lose this area, you are done. You cannot win.
And an important thing to remember is that we've been talking about how does Austria win this game. Right. They're only at 23 centers. They need to take a lot of centers. They're going to be at like 24 or something after this phase. Fine. But they need this game to go on so long.
Yep.
You know what's a good way to make this game take forever?
To take your capital.
To take the capital of someone who is in the win.
Yes, because importantly, the being 25% ahead, people who don't own their capital still count for that, right? So as long as you're within range of the person in first place, if you don't own your capital, it doesn't matter. You're still stopping them from winning the game. Austria nicking your capital is definitely a way to keep this going.
Yeah. And Ottomans view this probably as a way to get Austria off of their backs, to get them to say, hey, I'll support you against Spain, but continue demilitarizing our border, and then go for a stab and go for a solo. Because Ottomans are like, hey, this is draw size, let me be the only one winning. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Did
Um,
Mali put Ottomans in a Portuguese centre there while Ottoman was stabbing them?
I mean, yes, but
It looks
I
like they've
might have
pieced
been
out in the
agreed.
south.
Right. It might have been a thing where like, hey, it's agreed. It might have been a thing where like Ottomans weren't supposed to backfill.
Mm-hmm.
I forget exactly. I also wasn't privy to a lot of their communications.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Uh, yeah. I mean, I feel like in your position, my response here would be going to Ottomans and saying, hey, we really need to work out a way to make this game end as soon as possible. Win between us, right? So that you're not
Yes,
incentivized to make me lose my capital.
I agree, and I am gonna
Mhm.
point out that I have made these noises before. But yes, it was very much like, okay, real talk, Ottomans, like, you want this game to end immediately. Fine. I was trying to make the game end this year, right? I made every move to do it.
Mhm.
Um, or let's look at the center counts actually, so we can see where things are.
You're at
Because
61, huh?
I'm only at 61 after losing stuff. Right? Obviously, I could have covered Genoa. Notably, like centers that I could have very easily had if I wanted them. Genoa was guaranteed safe. If I'm going for a win, I can snipe Inuit, and there I could have sniped Inuit here.
Yeah.
Uh, so like if I'm going for a W, I could have been +3 if I wanted to, but obviously that position wasn't really happening this phase. I don't lose Rabat. I'm confident if Ottomans don't mess with me, and if Ottomans had played differently, they could have taken Tangier and not taken Corsica.
Yeah.
Um, so it's the case where if we'd been communicating from the start of the year, the game could have, I think, absolutely ended here.
Hmm.
Um, like, because Molly's off, but we can fix that as well. Molly like misordered to not take Moristad. Um, and then if their war, instead of fighting each other in the south, if they'd coordinated to take centers from the hostiles, the mutual hostiles, then I have to double check it. But I'm like 90% we could have ended this game this year if we A, all coordinated, and B, all voted to actually end it
Hmm.
and take the dub, which I think we would have, but it's also not a guarantee. And if I had overextended as much as taking Koryax and taking this one,
Rattled, yeah.
maybe they decide, no, actually, Spain's position is going to crumble, so they want the game to go long because I'm not going to be able to keep it.
Hmm. I think that's
Then that would have
something
been
we didn't
fair.
actually mention. As well as being in a position where you can get the joint win, everyone has to agree to that. Everyone who is in the joint win. So
Yeah,
yeah, there is also the the case of if someone thinks they can get a better result, a solo would be the better result, right? Then they may
yeah,
decline it. Yeah.
exactly. Or if you want a smaller shared win, or if you want a shared win with different people, because I don't know, that happens sometimes.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm pretty frustrated because man, I just resecured Iberia. It took me the entire game to do it, and suddenly I'm like, Iberia is not feeling safe anymore.
But you do get a build in Barcelona, right?
I do get to build a Barcelona again. Praise be.
Yes, and you took off Rabat and Ampher this year, so you have a decent number of builds, even though you didn't get a huge number of supply centers net.
Yep. Plus, I
Um,
think I waved some. So yeah, but obviously, I did. I am in all-out war in North America
mhm.
and South America,
Yeah,
so I kind of need a lot of builds.
yeah. Well, that's an interesting one. Shall we see the results of retreats here? Um, and the
Yeah, I
main
mean, this
builds.
is, or yeah, well, these are the
Yep.
retreats.
I should
Um,
say at this point the bot is it
oh,
still
showing
considers
plausible
some.
retreats.
Yeah, it's still wrong on some adjacencies because it automatically picks them up from the SVG image. So I think it was showing in South America that the fleet, the Mapuche fleet, could retreat to Chono. That's not a valid retreat across
No, yeah,
to the
obviously.
other coast. But it's a lot like
It's
displaying
still
these
sweet.
arrows at all is really helpful. So
Yeah.
that's nice.
I just wish that when we were writing our orders, that they could give us one of these that we could see, hey, here are the moves you've input.
Hmm. They
Like,
tried so hard to do that, but apparently it takes forever to generate the SVG. So doing it, and also I think that they're running this on the cloud, which feels expensive. If you're
it,
interested in supporting, by the way, Imperial Diplomacy, they do have a Ko-Fi I don't know how you pronounce that. It might be coffee, where you can donate to them. I'll link it in the description below. If you want to support the work that's happening on this incredible variant.
or if you're a program and you want to help them work with the bot, I'm sure they're still looking for people who want to donate some hours to it.
Yes, yeah, they
Um,
absolutely are. If you go to the Discord that's linked in the video description, then there's a role you can pick up that says I'm interested in helping on the bot. It's all open source, so you can have a look through it and and help them out if you have the skills to do so. Yeah, it's fantastic. All right, so these are the retreat results. Is there anything important here? Um,
on retreats, Iberian to Bay of Biscay
mm,
is an interesting one because Portugal is exactly neutral on this, so they could pop it and put it down in Lisbon, but instead they're retreating it to Bay of Biscay.
That's slightly nicer for you, right?
Mm, given that I'm worried about Navarra,
Well, the thing is, I think from like if I was in this position, my number one concern right here is that I don't lose Madrid. I don't really care about the three around the outside. So if
yeah,
if Portugal doesn't have an extra army on the board in Iberia, I'm happy.
that's fair. That's
Yeah.
a good point. I want there to be minimal pressure from the West so I can keep that locked out. And yeah, if I lose Navarra, I'm still not going to lose Madrid anytime soon.
Hmm.
Yeah, all right, that's nice. Okay. So here we are. Let's go to build so we can look at that VSCC percentage. Sorry for
Yeah.
everyone. And
So
so, as we were hoping for, right? There's the three of us, and then everyone else.
yep.
Um, with that significant gap, but Mali is here. Ottomans have reached their condition. Well done, Ottomans. Congratulations. But obviously not done yet. Yeah, building 8 still. So it should be okay.
Did Mali get a build there while going -3?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. They got stuff. They got a lot of stuff popped.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And so, yeah, Mali needs to gain 4 this phase. And, like, Maristad is one they're going to get. I was offered to give it to them last turn, but then they misordered and they didn't take it. And so they just have to get a couple extra.
Hmm.
But here's the thing that the negotiations were they in the spring?
Well, you can go ahead and describe them anyway, because they'll be relevant sooner rather than later, right?
We start basically at this point. I push Mali and Ottomans to include Inuit in the draw,
Hmm.
basically. Um, a huge amount of it is simply pragmatism. The argument being Inuit are. I'm pretty sure I wait until the actual literal fall to get them to concede it, basically, because if Inuit doesn't stab Shoshone here, then they don't actually get enough centers, I don't think, and I can still dot them to keep them out of the draw.
Right.
But if Shoshone stabs, if Inuit stabs Shoshone here, then they're going to be gaining enough centers that we can't end the game realistically this year. We would all have to go up way too high. And I spent a lot of time working with Ottomans, just like actually calculating the center count and looking at VSCC percentage and realizing, yeah, if like we can only accept them gaining like 1 or 2 centers, because we would need Mali to go like +5 or something, and it's non-trivial for make a +4. It's pretty likely, because they can take like one here, they can take one here, and then there's a couple extras they could get. Ottomans already being at the top is huge because it means they only need to like take right. They're already there. They don't need anything else, and they just need a couple extra. So we spent a lot of time on this, and a big part of the issues for me ends up actually being these fleets over here, because I'm like, I don't like. What are the odds that Ottoman just attacks me again? Right? Like, I can't trust them to do anything. Like, man, it would be really nice if we could work out something where, like, I don't know, we get them into Tangier or whatever, and like I help, but I need to not lose anything. Like, I can't afford. I didn't feel that I could risk going for Porto and Lisbon this year, because I'm not. I don't want there to be any convoys or any shenanigans around Valencia. Yeah. So that was a big part. But we look at it and we realize it's legitimately easier to get Inuit into the draw than it is to cut them from the draw.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I keep saying draw. I'm so tilted because that is the language that Molly and Ottomans used, and it's not. It's a win. It's the win. Like, you win the game.
Just like the impunity, right? This is
yes. Yeah, we get into the impunity, but I don't know. I pick up the language that the people around me use. It's a good thing, and I need to be stronger in my opinions. But yes, so we decided that it's easier to get Inuit there if Inuit steps, and so that's why I'm pretty sure this is actually in the fall of this year. We decide that we're including Inuit, and we're gonna throw centers to Inuit.
Because if they stick with Shoshone, then you definitely don't want them to have a heads up that you're going to go for the win.
Yes.
Because that's the kind of point at which people can try to arrange throwing centers to someone to get them within 25% of you guys.
Yeah, worth noting, there isn't really anyone in this game that they can do that to. Mm-hmm. Austria has no centers they can take from anyone except for like me and Ottomans. Yeah, they can get a couple from Sweden, but not many.
Yep.
Then
who's next?
Like Inuit. Yeah, who are they gonna take centers from? Like Shoshone. Okay, sure. But yeah, it would need to be like throwing centers to them. But that's not what we want, right? We want Inuit to eat Shoshone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not too worried about it happening. And yeah, like Qing and Mughals and Ayutthaya are all at war with each other. I think right now it's a 2-on-1 against Mughals, but don't quote me on that. I didn't pay enough attention over here.
Yeah. There's always a region on the board that you have no idea what's happening on, right? That's just the.
And that's just in this Imperial. One. I mean, for the work, I've known what's going on most of the time. Like I've known when there were going to be shifts here because of Ayutthaya, and for the first time, Ayutthaya doesn't build any fleets that are hostile to me.
Whoa! It's a fleet on the west coast of Nakhon Sea. What? I didn't know that could be built.
Amazing. Huh?
I didn't know that could be built. It's never happened before in the history of this game.
Yeah, the history of this game for sure. Yeah. So I need to take 3 centers or something, and we need to figure out how to get Inuit up there. So looking at the centers, basically we agree that I'm going to let. Let's go to see the spring before I talk about the fall and all the centers being tossed. Because the spring is me continuing to just say, if this game goes long, how do I not die?
Yeah.
Yeah, Operation 1 is bitch at Austria to get them to not attack me. Specifically, make sure that they don't let, like, Ottomans take Gulf of Leon.
Yeah.
That's a big one, because, again, from where I'm sitting, basically the way that I lose this game is to an Ottoman solo run. And if Austria pulls back too much on their eastern border and lets the Ottomans take Gulf of Leon, then Ottomans are at risk of taking the entire coast from me, like all of these centers plus Tangier and Rabat. If they can, Naples can be lost as well whenever Ottomans wants it, because Strait of Otranto is exposed. And if Ottomans stabs. If Ottomans works with Austria in Iberia and then stabs them and then stabs me, / I'm already crushed at that point, there's a real chance that Ottomans just wins. And so the only way that I lose this game is if Austria doesn't defend effectively. So only priority is to make that happen. And I go about this in the worst way possible. I just completely bitch at Austria. But a little bit of chainsaw diplomacy actually works. He's the first person I swore at the entire game. I very rarely swear in diplomacy. But if you want to appear irrational, swearing is a great way to do that. I don't recommend it. Use it sparingly because you can kind of only do it once. But since I suspect the game is ending this year, here's a good time to be to go a little on edge.
Yeah, I find that kind of approach never really works. Like, I really don't do it very much anyway. It's not an approach I take. But like, I know in person games, especially when I was a teenager, I would get very emotional at certain points and just think, okay, well, the best way to get this person to do something is to be angry with them, right? And I think for most people, it just makes them not want to work with you, or not want to do what you say. So you definitely have to pick the right moment for something like that. And in fact, I would generally say it's better to avoid altogether, but
yeah, I think in general, it certainly leads to more pleasant games to never do it. And being pleasant is something that's almost always correct. Like, you want people to be comfortable talking to you in every game. Like, that's a sign if you're having a good game is when people are reaching out to you and talking to you about stuff and they want to include you in their plans and they want you to know about things and not feel like you're stabbing or anything, and feel comfortable sharing things. So like I said, this is a thing that I'm willing to do because I think there's a good chance the game is ending this year, and there is exactly one thing that I desperately want them to not do, and in this case, I felt that this was a good time to do it. But it burns bridges very quickly. Same with like giving ultimatums to people, like I did at the start of this game.
Yes.
But the start and the end, like, I don't know. It worked. If you'll see the moves. But yeah.
Shall we see the moves then? Or is there anything else to talk about here?
This was fun. I'd been talking with Ching about demilitarizing this area for a while. And like we'd gone through a whole rigmarole of like being safe and stuff and doing different moves over here. And then I heard from Inuit that Ching was working with Shoshone and Inuit to try to stab me, and they were doing it in exactly this way. That these were the tactics that had been fed. I don't think these exact tactics were done, but it was like there was some agreement that I had made with Ching that this was the way they would counter it. Was like I was supporting myself at East China Sea with strength of 1, and backing out of Kuroshio currents, and then they were like, "Hey, they're breaking this deal with you." And I looked at it and it's like, "Well, how do they break it? There wasn't that much." Oh, and then I realized they weren't going to be support holding Mommy, and so I could snipe it. And so I went to take Amami and then cover Kuroshio currents because that way I can't lose Amami.
Yeah.
Now I cover Philippine Sea, and so it's like, all right.
I mean, this is just like key diplomacy techniques, right? Your tactics are the best way to get one over your opponent is to know exactly what they're going to be doing.
Yeah. If you know what their moves are, you can crush them. And then here, it's just hard counter to get crushed, and they lost the center. Like, they could have just support held it, and then I wouldn't have had anything, but no. I tried to get one over on old Ezio.
But yeah, I see you're going fairly all out now, although it looks like, was that an agreed bounce in Sulu Sea, or was that Ayutthaya trying to slip in behind you?
That was Ayutthaya trying to be sneaky.
Okay.
I don't know. I think we were going back and forth on this one, and then at some point I needed this bounce to happen because I'm like, let's not do anything crazy. So we agreed to bounce, and then I covered Philippine Sea, Halmahera Sea, everything's covered. Oh, this one was I feel bad about this one. Yeah, this was a Netherlands sub, the old Netherlands player pieced out and like left the game, and then this player was like, "Hey, I just want to survive in Australia."
Oh
or
no,
they
did you tell
initiated it.
them, hey, you can
And then I
color in
was like,
Australia, that's fine?
no, I didn't say you can color in Australia. I said I'm absolutely not going to attack you in Australia.
Oh no.
And then they're like, well, I
Yep, it
mean,
does seem like they fell for the old, oh, Ezio isn't gonna take my dots thing. Ezio is going to take your dots.
okay, most of the time, but not always. And in my defense,
Mm-hmm.
it's the end of the game.
Yes. I mean,
So
that is a pretty solid defense, to be fair.
yeah, all right. And so the thing about this working, Ligurian Sea doesn't work with Ottomans against me, and notably, Ottomans didn't actually attack me at all.
Mm-hmm.
Ottomans were serious about us finally making peace.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, when all said and done, like, yeah, they backed out of Balearic Sea, they backed out of Alboran Sea, and so I could have gone harder for Porto or Lisbon, and we could have taken more centers off of Portugal here,
Mm-hmm.
probably.
But it's fair
But
to play it safe. I think it's better to play it safe, right? You don't necessarily need those sensors off of Portugal, whereas you do need to not die to Ottomans. So
yes, so but credit where credit's due. Ottomans made peace. Also, I am gonna say that this was the end of the game where people started messaging me a lot about the video.
oh no.
And I was like, guys, come on. The game's not even over yet, man.
Wait, so how are they
Um,
saying it? Like, were they saying when is the video coming out or something like that? Or were they saying we can do
no,
something fancy for the end of the video?
uh, essentially. But people like it was fun. I was enjoying it, but also like I still needed this game to be over. Um, and I'm pretty confident that it was after seeing the results of this spring phase where I go to Ottomans and Mali and I say, hey guys, we can't win the game this year without Inuits.
Mhm.
Because Inuits with the stab, they got into Aji Cree. They I supported them into Porto, and I had the potential to kick them out of Porto. But it's like, okay, I can't take Port Royal because they covered that in Cape Amul or whatever. And
Mhm.
then I can maybe still snipe this center,
Razzlewood,
but they have a
yeah.
lot of centers adjacent. I don't know if you want to bet on that. And I actually am not in North Pacific Ocean anymore. I'm in Kuroshio Current, so I can't take Koryak. Also, they covered it.
Mhm. Yep.
So it's a thing where like we can't deny them enough centers if we look at where units are, but they only need 9 centers, and I say only because we can do a lot. So let's in South America tactically, I hard guess Mapuche.
Mm.
We got the hard read on him. So
Two
pop
two
pop.
pops. Yeah, nice.
Buenos Aires is lost. Yeah, it's all over.
Mhm.
Um, but yes, so great. This is going. I took a lot of centers. I gained these two. Um, I didn't lose anything over here, which is wonderful in Iberia, and I made solid moves on the eastern United States. I got into Fort Detroit, and so oh yeah, Montreal as well, in addition to Oshikri. And so I'm probably going to take some extra centers from Boston or whatever. I only need to take 3 in order for me to win. So I run some numbers, and I can afford to give centers to Inuit. The
Mhm.
easy centers to give are Bermuda and Azores.
Yeah.
That we have control of the oceans, and the only people who could interfere are Mali, maybe Portugal, but I think Sea of Azores got forced. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got Ottomans into Sea of Azores, and then they retreat.
They
Uh,
can't actually make that retreat. That's a false
I think
retreat.
that's an incorrect thing. I think it's in Lisbon. No,
Yeah.
it's just wrong move. Oh
It
well,
it's the
that's,
bot saying that it can retreat there, right? But it actually can't because
it
it's
definitely can't. Yeah. Oh, because there's
yeah.
a self bounce in Lisbon again.
Mhm. Yeah, that
Was
makes
there
sense.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. These things self-bounced in Lisbon because they
But
were worried
yeah,
about it.
it's like with this Imperial Diplomacy bot, there are a lot of false connections that it thinks are real. So if two provinces are quite close together but not actually connected, it will think that they are. And the people who are making the bots have been going around like hammering those, getting rid of those when they notice them, but they're not the easiest things to notice. Because someone actually has to try and make that move, and then you notice, hanging on, that succeeded when it shouldn't have.
Yeah, and like trying to look at this map, if you're just like, hey, show me every possible retreat, like
Yeah,
create an army in every province, force them all to beat this lodge, then look at all the retreats. Like
it's insane.
there's do you know how many provinces there are on this map?
I know there's like 350 supply centers. I don't know how many provinces. That's it's gonna be massive, right? um, it's
There's
certainly
like
a
350 supply
humongous
centers,
game.
and so there's an additional probably half again as many non-supply center provinces. There's probably 150, I guess, maybe 175. And then how many sea provinces do you think there are?
I feel like
80?
there's more non-SCs than SCs. Is that?
Oh, I'm
Um,
pretty sure that's not true.
oh, sorry, you're counting sea provinces separately.
Yeah,
This is. I mean, let's just say it's the same number of each and make it easy and say there's like 700 or something.
sure. Yeah, there's about 700 provinces, and they have tons of adjacencies, so checking it all is a huge pain.
Yeah.
Oh, and no, I didn't think about these oceans as well. Yeah, so checking every single adjacency is obviously a crazy task, and the bot's doing great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when we're looking at the position going into, have I called it the final year? Because
Yes, you have.
if I have, all right. Well, spoilers, everybody.
um.
But yes, so this is the end result of the spring of the final year. And clean map. Do we have clean map? Yeah, we have clean map here for this one. And so we run the numbers, and we're gonna give Inuit a bunch of centers. So I'm tossing Bermuda and Azores. Um, Inuit has already taken Algie Cree and Mont Royal for +4. Then I think I was looking at getting them into this one, Ojibwe, but Inuit spent some time looking at it and realized that it's not, strictly speaking, a guaranteed center. If Shoshone does exactly the right counters and they can reach their guaranteed place with enough, they can get basically guaranteed. Austria decides that they just want the game to end, and so he's like, "All right, I'll help Shoshone take London. Well played, congratulations. See you guys in the after action reports." Ottomans agree to toss, I think Arkhangelsk, because Ottomans does need it, and they're like, "All right, let's get this one done. Let's be fun." And then let's see. Molly, yes. So Molly was supposed to take Moristad. And Molly's like, all right, look, if we're gonna have a small draw, I at least want to be on top of the draw. I think it's ridiculous if Inuit is ahead of me on the supply center count if we're tossing them all of these centers. And frankly, fair.
Yeah.
I agree with that. But I want to color in as much of South America as possible. So I don't want them to take Moristad.
Very important things.
It's critical at the end of this game. And so what I offer, and so he said, look, if I'm okay not taking Moristad, I just need a center. And so I need you to agree to give me a center that's as guaranteed as Moristad. And so I sit here and I say, oh, that should be doable. Let's look.
Is there anything?
Bahamas.
What?
That's a nice place to vacation this time of year.
You can't get them to Bahamas by the end of the year, though, right? Oh,
There's
you
an
can
army I can
convoy
convoy.
them. Oh my god.
So we convoy him over to Bahamas. It's a nice place to vacation. It's wonderful. I was looking at being there, but yeah, Bahamas. I picked Bahamas because I think it's actually Barbados maybe would have been better. But Barbados, it's in the Caribbean, but it's like not really in the Caribbean, and it doesn't have a lot of land. So as far as like the surface area of the mount of the map to change color, this isn't changing much. Whereas if like Havana or like Santo Domingo, there's like a lot of surface area yellow here.
I thought it was like actually strategic because if you put an army in Bahamas, it can't go anywhere, right? Where if you put it in Barbados, it can still walk in and attack.
Yeah,
you
like
if
the Coral and Caracas and stuff.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah, there's also reasons to it, but mostly it's the coloring.
You gotta have neat borders. Gotta have that nice yellow everything in America.
I don't know if I end up actually taking Maran whatever. I don't know this one. I don't know if I'm taking it. I'm strongly considering it because I'm trying to color stuff at this point.
I'm I'm laughing at this, but I'm also remembering at one point we commentated the very first Chaos video we ever commentated, right? We both were players in, and we weren't mentioning who we were for it. I was playing Trieste, and towards the end of the game, Trieste did these completely nonsense moves where they moved into like a bunch of non-supply centers, left everything open, and got brutally stabbed. Slight spoilers here for the Chaos game commentary. If you haven't watched it from how many... it was probably 5 years ago, yeah, so you should have gotten to watching it by now. But then, like, why would you ever do this? And we were saying this to my past self, I couldn't remember. And then eventually we, like, looked into it, or someone from the game made a comment or something like that. Oh, he was colouring in the non-supply centers. Don't do it, people. It's like, yeah, you can neaten up your borders a bit, but if things go unexpectedly and you've just moved out of all your supply centers to colour stuff in, or moved out of vital positions to colour stuff in, you're gonna regret it.
Yeah. One thing that I did want, I really wanted Lisbon.
Oh, okay.
This is this real thing that I actually wanted, and since we're tossing to Inuit, we're getting it. Well, tossing to Inuit, that's weird, because we're not losing. We're tossing to someone only applies. Whatever, since we're working with Inuit so much, I assume they're going to be okay with me getting Lisbon. But I think this is a good way for it to clean up with me walking in to the Portuguese capital, saying, sweet justice.
I am actually curious. So at this point, everyone on the board will have seen that, you know, there's a group working together to try and separate themselves from the rest. Was there some kind of coordinated opposition to try and stop this from happening? Especially in, like, Qing and like Mughals, people like this who maybe have a chance if the game goes long, right?
People hadn't realized they were going to give it to Inuit.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Because Inuit, right, was only at 71% or something. Right. Mm-hmm. So it didn't look like Inuit was going to be there. And so I suspect that people were optimistic that Inuit was going to be big enough to stop us from winning. And they didn't realize that the counter to this was to just
boost Inuit.
Toss Inuit up there.
Mm-hmm. Well, we should probably have a look at those 4 moves, but I don't think they'll be that much surprising, right? We got the convoy
Nothing
into Bahamas,
surprising, for sure.
Which is
we
great.
We do convoy him into Bahamas. I'm not gonna dot somebody at the end like that.
Mm-hmm. Did Netherlands survive in Australia, or did you brutally massacre?
They survived. I couldn't actually kill them.
Yeah. Yeah, I do see you tried. You death raid into Gunai with like 5 units.
Yeah, but I didn't take Wagiman.
Yes, that is true.
So I didn't try to eliminate them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they'd walked out of Wagiman, I would have eliminated them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they would have had the specific... No, I don't think they could have, because I didn't leave enough empty spaces.
They could have walked into SBO5, right? Oh no,
Wagiman doesn't border SBO5.
I'm worse than the
they would have. They would have had to leave Kimberley and then Wagiman or something.
Yes.
But yeah.
Okay.
And so, I don't actually cover Sulusi, which is one that like, alright, why did I do that? Well, alright, that was a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, obviously, like, at this point, there are things that I'm confident if I look at this turn, you're like, these moves don't make any sense, man. Like, why not just don't convoy him into Bahamas? Right? Like, just don't do that. But I I was seriously worried about Ottomans or Mali deciding I want this game to go longer. I think my position is really good. Mostly Ottomans more than Mali. Um, and so I wanted them to be happy and just accept the
Yeah.
end.
I mean, it's
So
completely reasonable to do some bizarre stuff if it makes someone accept the draw/win. This is convoying into Bahamas makes sense, I think.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and I did just want to take a quick look at the North American front as well, specifically on the tactics with regard to Shoshone, because you don't actually advance at all, right? Oh, you do get into
Uh,
Seneca?
yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure I got the
Oh, but
Seneca.
then you lose Fort Detroit. Is that...
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at it, like I only needed to go +1 here, so playing in a
Yeah.
way that made it very likely that I went +1 was the priority. And also ensuring that Inuit couldn't lose anything. Because again, we're making sure the game ends this turn. And so tapping Oneida and Seneca was technically necessary if I'm not gonna because Fort Detroit can't support Montreal. Um, Otherwise Ojibwe could tap Fort Detroit, and that's not a guaranteed support. So the only way to ensure Montreal stuck around was to double tap these two.
Yes.
Um, and it wasn't, I think, technically guaranteed in Seneca, but if he held Seneca, I don't lose Fort Detroit. So
Yeah.
it was okay. By doing these moves, I'm going +1 at least in this area. And I'm covering New Amsterdam instead of trying to take Boston because I have to tap Oneida, so I couldn't use Connecticut to double submarine into Boston and like, yeah, whatever. There's stuff happening, but
Yeah.
I went +1 in here and it's fine. And then obviously my position here doesn't look great
But
because it's in
the game's ending,
Diola.
so whatever.
But again, I'm pretty sure the game's ending. I'm like 99%. Nah, 95. I'm 90. No, I'm
Mhm.
less than 95. I think it's still incredibly likely the game ends, and I'm not willing to risk extending the game to be in a slightly better position if the game goes longer. The
Yeah.
priority was absolutely get the game over. And it's not like my position is bad, right? I'm at 3 above the necessary, and I have complete control of North Atlantic Ocean. If I need to take centers, I could take Bahamas, I could take Bermuda, I could probably take Azores. Like, this war with Shoshone is going to go fine. Inuit is still on the northern border and is going to crush. So I think this war isn't going to go well. Shoshone, I think, finally lost a lot of centers. They went from 23 down to 19. So that's pretty brutal. South America's been completely cleaned up. And I mean, I say completely cleaned up. There's like a few hostile armies, but the entire core is mine. And so I can clean up the coast, especially if I work with Mali to clean up these centers. Like, I don't know. I don't think I'm in any real danger of having bad things happen. So at this point, yeah, hey, I got my win. Let's get out of here. We're done.
Yes. Yeah. I
And
think the whole North American front is just really hard to win as Spain against Shoshone anyway because of the layout of those provinces.
yeah,
So yeah, I think you win that long term regardless because Inuit comes in to help you, right? The Shoshone can't
yep.
defend against both. But certainly your coast doesn't look very secure there.
Yep, and I can only build in Saltillo, which is unfortunate.
Mhm.
Um,
But yeah, it doesn't matter
yeah,
at the end of the day because you won. This
yeah.
is
Plus, like my front up here is rough, but also they've lost their control of South Pacific. So if
Mhm.
you look at the end position, if this game were to go on, I have these 4 fleets of South Pacific Ocean, and all of Shoshone centers down here, of which they have 3, are not in good shape.
Wait, how on earth do you have Tushan still? Like, I would have thought they would have been able to knock you out of it. Do they even? Oh, they just. Oh, they take Telehuchi instead. All right, fine. That works. Mhm.
Yeah, I just tapped it in there. I forget why exactly, and hey, it worked out.
Yep. All
But yeah, so
right.
these centers down here, they're going to lose, and so that's even more centers that they're going to be out. So yeah, like hard crushing them is going to take a minute, but I don't know, should be doable.
Yeah.
Either way, this is and at this position, after we have to wait until after retreat, and then in builds, um, we all voted for the Imperial Unity.
Yes, I forget if I
So we
pasted the VSCC on top of there on winter. Yeah, I probably did. Yeah, there we go.
Yep. So here is the end of the game with Molly in first, technically, at 110%. So they got their desire.
mhm.
Um, and
Yeah,
at least one of my allies made it into the end.
yeah. I mean, it should be stated there's no real difference between being first on top of the leaderboard and not if you're still in the win, right? That's
Absolutely
all a
none.
win.
But
But if
Molly
someone
wanted
wants
it.
to be there, that's that's great for them. Um, and yeah, you got Inuit into the draw. You did not get Shoshone, well, into the impunity. You didn't get Shoshone there. I,
Nor
I
Austria.
honestly, I think even if Shoshone hadn't built those armies that like triggered the attack on them, you would have had to attack them because of what was going on elsewhere with Ottomans coming for you. Because the reason you got out of the situation with Ottomans and Austria attacking you was because you presented a clear plan to the end, right? Which I don't know that you can do if you don't have a strong front against Shoshone.
Yeah.
Yeah, South America's pretty good, and you did get a bit over. You got 3 over, but I don't know. I think it's probably necessary to attack Shoshone anyway.
It definitely accelerated the end of the game.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because if I don't do it, it takes me longer to get all the necessary centers. I'm not as willing to just give centers to Molly because I'm in a tighter fight for the centers. I would probably say, no, Molly, you need to take centers from Portugal and Africa. Ottomans take the other centers from Portugal and Africa. Like, Portugal still got 12 centers to be slurped up between the three of us. So you guys take those centers. I'll take these. And if I'm not stabbing Shoshone, it's because I'm trying to get them into the win. And so it's like, great, we have to get more centers. They were going to come from Ayutthaya.
Mhm.
And like, that's going to take a long time, man.
Yep. Ayutthaya is not an easily breakable position with
I
fleets.
will say it's more breakable than I thought. Um, there were opportunities where I could have tried to convoy into Hainan,
Mhm.
which is something I wasn't considering well enough.
Oh, hang on. If you go into Bay of Tonkin on this turn, you just have Fanrang for free, right?
Yes.
Alright. Um,
Well, that was the fall turn, right?
yeah, that is true. Oh, so they don't have any adjacent builds, but yeah, this is,
I mean, yeah, I
it
can I
doesn't
can
really
set
matter.
myself up in the fall to take a supply center in the spring that they would then try to defend. So I mean, that's.
Yeah. Okay. But yes.
But yeah, so I think this is where it would have where I decided it was going to need to come from, and I didn't make moves to ensure that would happen. So it would have taken a long time. But also, again, like these past couple of years would have played out so differently if I was trying to get Shoshone into the win,
Hmm.
as opposed to just trying to eat them. And once I saw those builds, I like lost all incentive to do anything.
Hmm.
Um, like I wasn't certainly going to risk leaving myself exposed to them in this position. And so, but yeah, if they don't do those builds, and if I'm serious about getting them into the win, then I will still let them get one more convoy down here. Like, let's assume that they had put army in Miwok and army in Yokuts for more stuff to be convoyed out, maybe a fleet or something. But yeah, let's assume they do that for convoy material,
Hmm.
or like army, fleet, and then army in Shoshone or whatever, something like that. I don't worry about the specifics. Um, I probably need to attack Ayutthaya. And so I still do the same thing in the spring where we get them into Manitou, but instead of repositioning my units out, um, like instead of moving into Halmahera Sea and sending my stuff east, I think I immediately get into South China Sea uncontested and look to start convoying stuff in.
Yep.
And I think that works basically.
Yeah.
Um,
I I think it would certainly be slow, but it would
yeah,
probably work
but
over time.
time isn't a factor here.
Except
right?
for if Madrid is falling, which...
Yeah, but I think Austria, if they see me trying to get Shoshone into the end game, they know they have a lot of time.
hmm
And that gives them time as well to work with Inuit against Sweden. Because if Inuit isn't taking centers off of me and Shoshone, they still need to take whatever 9, and so they have to take some off of England and some off of Sweden next.
Yes.
So
And I think if Sweden gets convoyed into in the north, then Austria's position looks a lot better. Although
yeah,
it's still so slow. God,
yeah,
I
and
just
they
feel
need
bad
10
for everyone
centers,
who had to
9.
play Austria in this iteration. Like,
Yeah,
it's yeah, it's a really difficult country. This is one of the best performances across all the games. I feel like there might have been another Austria that won, but like it
that sounds
feels like an
crazy.
outlier. This is
Yeah,
yeah,
the position for Austria, they have another regional minor that they neighbor in Poland, and so you have to deal with that in a very real way.
mhm.
Then you've got France, who is not technically a regional minor because they've got a bunch of other stuff. They are a colonial, but all of their armies here are a middle term threat. They're going to fight you for all of these German centers, certainly. Then let's say you get out of the early game, like this Austria did, strong as the undisputed power in Central Europe.
Then your
Where do you
fleet
do from
control
there?
becomes a problem. Yeah,
You have no fleets in the north. You don't have enough fleets to really control the Med. Even if you work hard on it, you're getting bottlenecked. Like I gave him Naples. You don't have to be given Naples. You can just be stuck in Adriatic. You can't do anything. And then your land front against the Ottomans is so difficult to give yourself a reasonable stab. Because let's say you do get a brutal stab and you manage to take Sarajevo, you get into Banat and Transylvania, and you take Yassi and Targovist or whatever, you have to deal with the Black Sea again.
hmm
And trying to break this position is brutal. It's such a slow and long war, so you can get only a few centers. And so it's like, I think as Austria, your best bet at winning is to get incredibly lucky and have people basically throw to you and have you find a way to be the one who gets out into Russia.
yeah,
Like just hard kill Poland with Swedish support, and then you just push out. But like, there's not that many centers out here. And while you're pushing out to the east to lose your dying to France, like, it's
yeah.
really hard. No idea how to do it.
Well,
I think Austria played a great game and just didn't quite get there.
yeah. And of course we need to congratulate the people who did get into the win, which was Ottomans, Mali, and Inuit, alongside yourself. I have to congratulate you as well. Well played, especially coming back from the position where you'd lost the entirety of Iberia. That
Yes.
was impressive.
Yes. It was weak sand, not Quicksilver. As Ottomans well played for them. I do think they played the best game out of anyone here.
Mhm.
Multiple times where they were a solo threat. So huge credit to them. Ice Cream Man as Molly.
Yep. You had some heavy
Who
hitters in your
was
games. Ice Cream Man is the guy who made the boss as well, but he was also in our original Imperial Diplomacy commentary. He was playing Portugal, I believe, under an alias.
Yeah.
um,
Who was Inuit?
I don't know. This is your game. You're supposed to
Yeah,
know this stuff.
I added them a lot in our channel. You see,
Hang on.
um,
I'm going to very quickly go and find out who Inuit was because
I'm looking.
complete
Man,
Canadian, is that correct?
yeah, that sounds right.
Yes. Okay. Congratulations also to
Oh, I
Complete
know.
Canadian. There are a lot of people I don't recognize in these games as well because of the influx of people who came to Imperial Diplomacy after the first video. So, massive thank you to everyone who did that as well. It's been fantastic to see so many new faces. Especially just interested in variants. I've been a variant guy since forever. I used to play on V-Diplomacy, which is like the variant diplomacy website, much more than normal diplomacy, even back in like 2012, 2014 kind of time. And it was always like the less popular thing, but I think now Imperial Diplomacy is like one of the biggest diplomacy Discord servers out there. And that's all thanks to you guys, so thank you. And thank you to the people who made the variant as well, Flare and Elisha, and everyone who works on it. Ezio, I did want to very quickly ask, I mean, also I'll give you time to say whatever you want to say before we wrap up, but like, did this go along the lines you were expecting a Spain game to go? Because presumably you went in with some impression of what you wanted to do, right?
Yeah. So as we've talked about with the start of these videos, CaptainMeme and I wanted to play 2 different games in the same country, to just have some fun. And I really wanted to play a Colonial.
Mm-hmm.
So I was looking at this, and I felt very confident that Spain was the strongest Colonial. And I'm calling this true Colonial. I don't consider Ottomans or Russia Colonials in this way, because they're big, but they're also pretty consolidated. So I understand they have the SCC, but I didn't think of them as colonial powers. But of the colonial powers like England, Spain, Holland, Portugal, I thought that Spain was the strongest.
Yep.
So that's why I wanted to play Spain. I felt they were strong because I thought the biggest claim to the Caribbean. Their position was just good for it, and they were strong in their regions. They were weaker than their relative regional powers, but it wasn't so lopsided. Like, yes, if Shoshone had decided to attack me from the get-go, then I will lose my Mexican holdings, basically, if they hard commit to it. But they will gain less from attacking me than they will by eating a bunch of neutrals at the very start of the game. And then the question is, how do you ensure that they continue to gain more from not attacking you? And I can actually do that because I have enough units in the area. I can give reasonable resistance, and I can support significantly. This is contrasted by the other regional miners who can't. I did expect to be stronger in the Mediterranean than I was. I let things go terribly there.
Yeah.
I think my starting position is like, you are the dominant power in the Med. If we go back 20 years before I let everything go horribly, horribly wrong.
This is a lot of years.
Yeah, right. If we go back to here, actually, here is where things start to go wrong. But even from this position, right? Like, yeah, I'm going to lose Sardinia, but it's not the end of the world yet. There's going to be more fleets. But if I had played better and like self-balanced in Tyrrhenian Sea and made it clear to Ottomans that they weren't going to get anything if I don't move out of straight up Bonifacio, like.
Well, I mean, specifically, I think if you'd have stabbed Portugal the year before this, then everything would have been
maybe
a lot better.
Yeah, if I had stabbed Portugal here, then I don't have to worry about the Portuguese stab on me, and I have more units that I'm probably going to put down an extra fleet because I have a lot of centers that I want to secure them. But I thought that Spain, right, is strong in the Med, so you don't your homeland is actually secure, unlike Portugal and Holland, who aren't secure. I'm big, and then England also seemed reasonable to me. They were my other choice as far as colonials, but I don't know. I didn't want to play the British.
Fair enough. No one likes the British, right?
Yeah. And so I approached this game by trying to create a relatively solid base, a solid core to project power from, and that was the Caribbean and the Caribbean adjacent locations. And I played well and got lucky with how the other colonials handled it. I got lucky that England and France went to war and were both relying on me to get them out of it. And so, that's somewhat luck, but it was also exactly what I was trying to do. And it's very difficult in diplomacy to determine how much of what people did was due to your influence versus what they were going to do anyways.
Yep.
Obviously, when I'm playing, it's mostly due to my own influence, and I'm a god at this game, and obviously deserve 100% of the credit. Whereas when other people do it, it's mostly luck, clearly.
Obviously.
But yeah. But this was my strategy going into this game, was approaching it mostly like this, being very anti-colonial, very pro-regional, and then I only went anti-regional when the regionals were super weak. Like, that's just, I don't know. I think that's a good diplomacy approach, is to make solid allies, so when an opportunity arises, take it.
Yeah.
Like this stab on Mapuche here, and it's like, yeah, okay, this was really good. This felt really good. Wow.
I'm still so sad you didn't do the convoy swap. That's
Yeah.
my main takeaway from this game is if you have the opportunity to showboat, because it will go down in history, and if you don't do it, it's like if you fail to showboat, then no one's gonna care, right?
Yeah.
But if you succeed in showboating, then it goes down in history forever.
Yeah, and like the net difference in position after showboating, give it 2 years, is what exactly?
Okay, yeah, I should say that this is not good diplomacy advice to showboat. You should not do it, but it would have been awesome to see in any case.
It would have been awesome.
But
yeah, so this one about as expected. I will say, to talk about the variants high level for a second, I think the biggest change in this game for regular diplomacy is the fact that multiple people can win. I think that is something incredibly fundamental, and I don't know if I like how it plays out. Standard diplomacy is a very unique game in that you need to make deals with people, you need to work together, but ultimately those deals cannot last at a fundamental level because the two of you cannot both win. And how, therefore, do you negotiate with someone? How can you make deals with people? And that question is what makes diplomacy so cool and interesting. How much do you trust people when you know they have to stab you at some point if they want to win? That is not present in ImpDip. In ImpDip, you can make an ally, work with them for the entire game, and win. And the two of you can win together. And again, it's not the case of like, okay, we're accepting a draw in standard diplomacy. We haven't accomplished our victory condition. We're going to end the game without stabbing each other, and we're both content with that. Some people play the normal, real diplomacy like that, and that's fine. Credit to them. In tournament settings, it makes a lot of sense. Like, hey, trying to play until one person gets to 18 supply centers. There's stalemate lines, doesn't happen. It takes forever, so just being the top, fine. But they didn't win. And in ImpDip, you can just win. And so I think the way that I approached this game was I'm going to make solid allies, and I'm going to try to win this game with my solid allies. And I don't have any incentive, really, to stab them. Because there just isn't any. And that's why I was working with the regional miners, was because they only need 32 supply centers to win, or 36 or whatever. So I can work with a lot of them. I can make solid allies and never need to stab them. And
I get what you're saying.
Very different.
Right? It is very different. I think diplomacy a lot of the time doesn't turn out to be exactly the way you're describing, right? Because people don't necessarily aim for the win a lot of the time. They'll go for draws, and then in a draw, this kind of stuff is still absolutely possible, right? The talking about it as a draw versus a win is a bit of a more interesting one, but I don't think you can make a variant like this without having an ability for multiple players to win. Because if you do, then one regional on the other side of the board can just take away your chance of winning as a regional on your side of the board without you having the ability to do anything about it, even if you're growing super fast, right? If you're like a couple of centers behind them, then then goodbye. You can't win the game anymore. So I get why it's done on this, and also I would like to say
I think that's contributing to the popularity of this variant. I think people like this idea. I think like the how many times do you play diplomacy and the stories you hear and the frustration people have are I was playing this game, then my ally stabbed me in the back and I hate it, and they rant about it for years. And that
I've
leads
certainly never
to
done that.
the biggest anger and frustration. And navigating your way around that is really tough. You don't have to in this variant. And I think a lot of people like that. And I agree. I'm not sure how exactly you could make a variant like this work with all of the different size starts, with the different size needed to get to the win. Trying to be a historical map like this, I don't know how you could do this in a better way that can have only one true winner.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very challenging problem, and one that Flare and the other people working on this map have sidestepped and said, you don't need to do that. You can play this game. It has the same movement mechanics as real diplomacy, but I think that is the single biggest difference between this and real diplomacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one that I do want to highlight, because if you are playing Imp Dip, you can win the game in a way that you can't in real diplomacy. And I do consider it a literal win. Like, in the rules, right, it's the same Imperial unity.
Yes.
For if it's 5 people or 1, it is still Imperial unity. That is the only win condition. And it's like if you're playing Mafia and you draw Survivor, your only job is to stay alive till the end. Like, okay, I think it's a lame win, but whatever, that's your only goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's an easier win than trying to play as whatever, serial killer, and be the only one left alive. But the game considers them both wins. That's just how it is. That's what the rules of the game work. And so I if people want to seek whatever victories they want, I again respect everyone. I think that's how games work. You don't have to try to play for exactly what the rulebook says is the win, but also trying to play for what the rulebook says is the win is how I approach games.
Yeah.
And in this game, you can win by being a Care Bear. And just say, hey, I'm going to make some allies, I'm going to stick with them, and we're going to win.
Yep. I mean, importantly, you do also have to grow relatively quickly in order to get to the point where you can win, right? If someone
That's
on the
true.
other side of the board is growing more quickly, then it might advantage you much more to stab your Care Bear ally because someone needs
Yes.
to catch up.
And
Which
you
is...
saw in this game, I did stab an ally, right?
Yes.
I did stab Shoshone, and that is definitely the stab of the person that I considered most an ally. That was the most clear, brutal stab of I am stopping this ally from winning the game,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't do it. And I still did it because I wanted to get into the win. I wanted to win, and so I felt it was my best way to do that. And that's still going to happen.
Yep.
But it also means that I didn't have to stab Ottomans. There was no point in this game where I felt like I needed to stop them from winning. Whereas in a real diplomacy game,
was there a point where you could even have stabbed Ottomans? I feel like you kind of never had that
much
position
earlier,
anyway.
certainly they got the jump on me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like certainly at around this point, right back in fucking whatever 02, because I wasn't feeling like I had to. And they got the jump on me, and so they were able to stab me, and then I didn't have much potential for sure. But in real diplomacy, if we go to like whatever, like one of these years, right? Like after I do get the jump on them, and then like right after we get the convoy into Sardinia, for example, like right after here, I like we can make peace. And it is reasonable for the two of us who are 2 powers. I mean, I'm not really competing for the win at this point, but like for 2 powers who are close to winning in a real diplomacy, you can never do this. You can never say, hey, you're at 10 centers and I'm at 9. We can actually be friends and both win.
Mm-hmm.
In a real diplomacy, if they're at 10 and you're at 9 and you are trying to win, you absolutely must attack that power at 10 centers.
Yep.
Because if you don't, they're going like if they don't win, they're going to stop you from winning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just how it works. That's not the case here.
Mm-hmm. I definitely understand that. I think it's an interesting problem that maybe can't be
it's
solved
a problem
with this size of variant.
Yeah. And like it doesn't. It's I'm not trying to say this is a bad thing. I'm not trying to say that this needs to be changed or that this variant is flawed.
Mhm.
I'm trying to highlight this as a difference
Yes.
because it is not right. I think people like this, and it was a very different feeling for me. And it's just something that I just wanted to highlight as what I felt embodied diplomacy at a fundamental level, which is part of why the game has lasted so long and why it's been so, like, why it causes such emotions. Um, in this one, I think alliances are much easier to do as opposed to real diplomacy. Like, if you have ever done a 17-17 draw in a real diplomacy where neither party could stab each other, that's something incredible.
Hmm.
Like, it's crazy, but it's also not a win. Neither one of you won. It's still crazy. Whereas in this one, like, yeah, you can. I think it's very easy to have a couple people work together to just do it. And hey, you have to pick the right people to do it. Like, I'm sure there are players of the ones who were eliminated, slash players who were trying to win and then didn't. Right, but I think they had a similar strategy. You still have to execute. You still have to play a great game of diplomacy in order to do it. It's just the final the final bit feels weird.
Yes. Um. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about with regard to the variant, or shall I get us wrapped up here?
I think we're good.
All right. Well, thank you very much for watching. For one, getting through four videos of us talking. Thank you for all the support we've got on these Imperial Diplomacy videos. It really, like, it's been an astounding response on these and on the previous Imperial Diplomacy video. Just really makes me want to go back in this variant again, to be honest. I haven't even finished my game yet. I'm really looking forward to another. And once again, like, massive shout out and thank you to Flare and Elisha who made this variant in the first place. There's something that just sets this apart. There have been attempts at things like this before, and I think there are pretty good variants that do something similar on a world map, right? But just making the map this nice, for one, has been fantastic. Getting the bot team, getting the bot up and running so a lot of people could play this at once is huge. It's just been amazing both for YouTube and to play in and experience. So huge thank you to the whole team and all the people who worked on GMing as well. If you want to play Imperial Diplomacy or even just talk about Imperial Diplomacy, I highly recommend checking out the Discord link in the video description. As of talking right now, the Imperial Diplomacy is entering beta. So these were alpha maps. It is going to get one more major rework, I think, in terms of what provinces are where and what powers are there and such like. And then that is the beta, which has just been announced now. They're taking player signups from next week, I believe, for playing in the beta. So, yeah, absolutely recommend playing this. It's been fantastic, and I think Ezio can attest to that, right?
And a huge point of difference between the alpha and beta is how regularly games will start. In the alpha, they were starting like one set of games started where a few games were played, and then months went by while they let those games finish before starting the second round of games. In the beta, I believe their plan is to get games starting every month, I believe.
Something like that. I haven't. I need to reread the
Yeah.
the announcement,
But
but yeah.
with some regularity is the idea. And so you can join games more or less when you want to, as opposed to needing to wait for the next round to start, which is a very nice thing because obviously if you saw our videos last time and wanted to play, had to wait months before this round could start. And so that's why those 6 weeks of chaos happened.
Yeah.
Um, what playing this made me want, I really do want to play the global chaos map.
I really do as well, but I don't think that's going to happen for a little while. We gotta
No, I think it
gotta
would
hold
be
off, and we
something
also gotta
else.
wait until a lot. Well, I say wait. We've probably got enough people interested in the game right now in the server who to make it happen. But it would be great
Yep.
to have even more, right? Just to
And if the bot works, I think it would make GMing much easier.
yes, yeah. I say that as I'm also GMing one of these games, right? Hi to all my Bluebell players. Thank you for dealing with me constantly making very minor mistakes in GMing. We may commentate that one as well, but I cannot understate how much easier that bot makes it. Like, the amount of time that Flare must have been having to put in to adjudicate, like, hand adjudicate those games the first time around, I could not do that.
Yep.
So
It's awesome.
Yep. Alright, well, I believe that brings us to the end. So once again, please join the Discord in the description if you're interested in this variant at all.
Also join our Discord.
I'm not gonna link our Discord under this video because I think I want to put the focus on Imperial Diplomacy for this one. But if you look for any of our non-Imperial Diplomacy videos, you can find our Discord link underneath that.
Oh my god.
Alright, so thank you very much for watching. We will be doing another... Oh god. We will be doing another Imperial Diplomacy series, probably early next year, on my game that I'm currently playing, right?
Yeah, but his game isn't done yet, so we have no idea how long it's actually going to take.
Yeah, and we're going to take a break for Christmas, basically, because I think neither of us are around, so even if it finishes in December, you won't be seeing any more Imperial Diplomacy until January, at the very least. So, yeah, we will see you next time.